Mike, let the people know something, man. Tell people how you feeling and let the people know what's going on, man.
I'm feeling finesse. Let me stop.
I'm feeling finesse and blessed. That's all.
I'm like them. But now all jokes, you know what I mean? I'm feeling good. Friday, don't gotta work. You feel me? Got to check. Can't complain, right? You know, we do the live every Friday. But yeah, I look forward to this conversation, you know, and because it's part of what I do on a daily basis, like preaching the gospel at work, throughout the in the streets, you know. So same old, nothing too much new. Oh, and we might be linking up with some people. I don't want to say no names yet to get on a podcast. So we look forward to that too. Me and Keaton gonna be getting involved with that. But yeah. Besides that, man, again, check out what Keaton got going on, because it support the team. We not just one. It's not a one-man team. It's a bunch of us, and we got a lot of things involved. So by supporting Keaton, it's supporting us, and by supporting me, it's supporting Keaton. So yeah, check out the link in the bio on the YouTube page. You got, again, Tango doing numbers. You feel me? So yeah, go support the boy, and that's it with me.
So you know, Mike is a little hoarse, got his 50 Cent going. You know, just in case you get surprised. You know, let's just go ahead and put that out there. You know what I mean? Because I know people are going to be asking about it. So, let's go ahead and just take a second to state our positions. If it takes you about a minute, or so, that's cool, just to see, like, what you believe, maybe how you got there. So, we could just take a second to go around the room. We could take a second to go around the room and state our position. So, we can start with Jamar.
Right now, I've just been a transition from atheist from a long time ago. I remember I went to you guys' church, and I paid attention, wrote some stuff down. I started off with pretty much reading a lot about the history of the Bible and different types of Bible. Geneva, King James, stuff like that. And then around that time, I also got into Cometicism. If you ever heard of that.
What is that?
Never heard of that.
It's really a study of the Creator and how spiritual influences flow through each and every being. I got into that a little bit, learned a bit about it because my uncle is big on it, and he really is. He's a very smart man, and he wanted me to get into that, but I never really got into it too much. But from there, I just went into about those people that are just like, hey, I know there's something out there, but you don't know exactly what it is. That's pretty much my position from where I was before.
Okay, so you moved from being an atheist,
Yes, sir.
to believing in commit.
Yes, sir.
Okay, how do you spell that?
It's Kemetic.
Oh, okay, Kemetic.
Cometicism, but some people call it Kemetic, some people just call it commit, and it would just be Kemet, and then
Okay, that's interesting. I've never heard of that.
You probably most people this would probably jog you if you probably heard of it. Most people connected to the studies of pharaohs and their philosophical outlooks on most things. It was like some connections in the Bible about pharaohs and Egyptians, so it's kind of like their outlook on how they view things and their spirituality on things. So it's sort of like that. So you probably heard a little bit about it, but I didn't even know about it. You know what I mean? Before I got into it, and my uncle told me about it. I didn't know anything about it. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and Jason, you can state your position.
Christian, specifically believing in, Jesus is God, omniscient,
Omnipotent.
omnipotent, omniscient,
Yeah.
the O's and
Those.
The big O's.
that belief, that foundational belief there. Right now, specifically in the apostolic genre or
Yeah.
whatever, however we classify that now, I don't denomination, but originally I was raised Baptist, and I won't say I came out of that or anything. It's just growing up. I mean, I think I was probably 18 or 19 when I came to our church, New Life. It was a while ago. It's been a while, and so, well, I mean, just believing in, a creator, biblically based. Let me put it that way. It's easy to say I believe in God, but that's a really broad stroke term, and I think it's important to be specific. I mean, you can have that abstract discussion, of course, but then it gets to be more nuanced. I think when you get into the details, like, obviously you got the major, Islam, Judaism, Christianity, all centralize, a particular God, God of Abraham, and then you have your other facets, Buddhist, Hinduism, whole other vein, of religion there. So, but there's some similarities, I mean, if you really do not that I've done a super deep study of religion, but you do find crossover, between, different religions, whether it's a morality or, some of it's, there's nothing in common, but, you'll find, hey, a lot of them are like, don't kill people, just don't murder somebody, right? That's good, so, but I'm mainly kind of, I stay in that vein of, Christianity. I'm okay finding the edges for sure, I think that's important, but I try to always be open-minded about it. I feel like that's it can be uncomfortable at times, but I've always tried to approach everything that way. Like, okay, is God real? Like, I think that's a valid. I think if you're honest, it's a valid question that everybody asks at some point in your life.
Right.
And whether it's you're born a certain way, or in a certain environment, or something tragic happens to you, you know what I mean, and cause you to question that, And so anyway, I don't want to ramble, but
so apostolic Christian genre.
Yeah.
So you believe in the Book of Songs.
There you go.
You believe in the poetry and everything to do with Christianity. So, Mike, what's your position, bro? As far as like what you believe, like if you want to say denomination, or your stance on God, like you're sure he's real, like you kind of like go ahead and tell the people, because I know, you know what I'm saying.
Well, I stand, yeah, with Jesus. I like Jason said, everybody had a moment where you question or not sure, but from experience, I'm positive, I'm sure. From personal experience, from visual experience, from situations. So yeah, I don't care for titles too much, but I know that's what we asking. So I always say I'm Pentecostal, because I'm gonna do the fact that the apostles is our example and God gave them to be our example. I rock more with Pentecostal, not Baptist, not the other things. And I ain't really gonna get into all that right now, but I'm just saying, with me, Pentecostal. But I don't care for the titles though. But yeah.
Yeah, so I'm definitely, I try to be more of a moderator in these type of settings. I may give some stats, some questions, some scenarios, and see what everybody thinks, because I've had a few conversations with atheists, and I'm sure we've all run into the opposite of what we believe. I mean, even Christians, you'll have debates, dealing with God. Does God know everything? Is there such thing as free will? Like, even in the Christian community, you can have those type of debates, even if somebody's not atheist, but or agnostic. So I would just say I'm obviously a Christian. Like, some people don't think that word holds weight. Like, it's the same as saying like I'm a denomination or something, but it's like it's definitely a lot different, because being a Christian means that you are a follower of Jesus.
Facts.
Right? Other denominations, you could argue that the word Christian is not like well, I don't know if the word Christian is in the Bible or not. Now that I think about it.
They were first called Christians in Antioch.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's an actual biblical word. The other ones, that's why I would say it's different. But as far as being a Pentecostal apostolic, I always tell people that that's what I am, just to save time and conversation. But if I want to give like a deep answer, it's my background is Pentecostal apostolic, and I seek truth.
Right.
You know, so it's definitely, I find more truth in that religion, if you want to say, or denomination. But obviously, if that box is telling me how to do something and I don't agree with it, I'm not just going to say, hey, well, I'm a part of this box, so let me just say that this is what I do. You know, because you have different churches that disagree with each other in the same religion.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would just say my background's Pentecostal apostolic, and I'll seek the truth. So the first, let me see, some other things I want to get into. We're going to get into like some stats of some people, of like, you know, like how many atheists there are and how much it's growing. And we're going to get into like some 5 reasons that Christians give to believe in God, you know, 5 big arguments, and we're going to talk about those. Some biblical evidence, the importance of the name of Jesus, and we can, you know, discuss that. Witnessing to atheists, why Christians fail at talking to atheists. Do atheists really believe in God, or is it just kind of like a front? Because it's something a lot of Christians say, like every atheist actually does believe in God. They're just kind of, they may have a different interpretation of how that works.
Right.
But, and then why do people become atheists? So I think these are all good topics to cover today with this group of people.
Right.
So there are just some stats I'm gonna like go over really briefly. According to the, was it WIN/Gallup International Global Index of Religiosity and Atheism, conducted in 2012, approximately 13% of the global population identified as atheists, while 9% identified as agnostics. So it's a very small percentage of people that don't believe in God, as they say. And the Pew Research Center's Global Religious Landscape Study, conducted in 2010, estimated that 16.4% of the world population is unaffiliated with any religion, which includes atheists, agnostics, and those who identify as nothing in particular.
Right.
Yeah, so they have, in other areas, it's a little more, because there was some survey in 2018 that showed around 22.5% of Europeans identified as having no religion, but that's a little different than atheism. But we all know that in this country, the group of atheists are at a very small percentage. But I would argue that in some cases it's kind of on the rise. I hear more people, you know, talking about, well, I don't really believe in anything. I believe in like I'll open it up with this. Like, I feel like the easiest people to get to understand like that they believe in God are the people who say things like, well, I believe in a higher power, but I don't believe in God. Because essentially what you're doing is saying, I believe in a thing you can sit in, but I don't want to call it a chair. It's like all the traits of this higher power that you're speaking of is what we call God. You know what I mean? So does anyone know like the 5 like arguments that Christians use? It's like there's just 5, you know, basic things. Like every time you try to prove God and they say, well, you know, there's no evidence for God. And the Christians a lot of times are stumped. You know, it's like, well, or they'll say, I guess this is what I would say. How would you go about proving that there's a God if an atheist says, hey, there's no evidence for God? Like, what would you say to that? You know, and anybody can
Oh, well,
take it.
being an atheist myself, back in the past, I know like a lot of pretty much points that people would have, like technical or logical. A lot of them are logical rather than philosophical, which is what most faith comes based on. But the strongest ones, I pretty much heard. Have you ever heard the Kessler principle or the Kessler theory?
Mm-mm.
Uh, I'm probably saying it wrong, but I think it's Kessler. When it pretty much evaluates that when it comes to believing in anything, that something has to be, well, if anything, like for example, that lamp over there, the light setup, somebody had to design it in a certain way for it to have a purpose, right? So living on a planet where everything, for example, if we like, for example, you bring in logical or scientific, uh, the Earth is in something of what we call, where scientists call the Goldilocks zone, right? Where we're perfectly placed in the perfect point in time, in a perfect set of space to be able to hold life as a setting, right? And this is what they would use to be like, hey, we're very lucky to be here. There has to be some type of ingenuity that came into being in this certain place to where we can have life. And then there's another principle, which is being able to comprehend things, being able to have, you know, a set of mind of your own to be able to decide things, decide morality, ethics, pretty much stuff like that. But that my argument to that, basically like arguing against my old self, which is, with atheism, would be
You
that.
had your old self sitting in the next seat beside you. Y'all probably go at it, huh?
But yeah, it's like what the best way to do it is, like, it's pretty much the way I explained it is just to tell them that, because in general it's a faith, and when it comes to everything, most, like, around the world, there's everyone who believes in different things. Even in Christianity, there's different types of Christianity. Everybody believes, like, holy, well, in general, everybody believes in there being a God, so that's just, there, like, for everything. But the way, like, I was explaining, I was having the same exact conversation with my brother the other day. And for example, take that water bottle, right? If you put an atheist and everyone in different type of religions in a single room, everybody will look at that bottle and see totally different perspectives. You see the front label of the bottle, he sees the description, she sees is something else from her perspective,
Mhm.
but we all have to realize that there is a bottle. You know what I'm saying? There's a bottle there, and and then there's also, and he replied to me like, yeah, because everybody's born in different places, and he was telling me that in the Bible, there was a circumstance where they were, given different languages and given different, ethical standpoints, and that did happen in a point in time, and that's the reason for that. We all look at it a different way because of where we were born, where we were placed at. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty much what I can say from my point of view.
Okay, it sounds like a little bit of the fine tuning,
Yeah.
but also like, because I was thinking about this, like so many things function as if they have a purpose to do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
But like as an atheist, you have to kind of say, well, you know, the woman's organs are not designed to give birth. They just so happen to work that way.
Yeah.
So I feel like from an atheist perspective, you would have to say, yeah, they just so happen to be able to give birth.
Yeah, that's because there's because I was also having this conversation with a friend of mine the other day, because she's an atheist, and there you have two different types of atheists. There's open atheists that are just like have that,
You heard that, Mike?
Yeah,
they all got the same thing in common. Go ahead, though. I'm gonna speak.
Yeah, they all got the same thing in common. Yeah, they don't believe, but but when it comes to what the topic is today, it's about how you can convert someone in an ethical way, in a peaceful way, which is what the world should stand on in the first place, peace, right? So when it comes to that, there's when it comes to Christians, there's people like that too. But when it comes to atheists, was this topic, there is ignorant atheists, and then there's open atheists. The open atheists are the people that you can probably convert. They just have that, yeah, they just have that they have that mentality of, hey, I just personally, from where I view things with what I've learned, because everything, even sitting here, we all even have different perspectives, right?
Let's head.
So that's pretty much what we base everything on: our own perspectives, our own philosophy, our own ethics. Even Aristotle and Apollo talk about things about ethics and morals and how we all view the world through those particular standpoints and those particular lenses. So when it comes to that, those ignorant atheists, which will say stuff
Stand
like,
them.
yeah, like I can't even stand them. They'll be cause like I was an atheist and I still believe certain sides of, like, I always tell my brother, I think three-dimensionally. Like, if something makes sense, I'm not going to sit here and go like, no, no, there's no reason for that. But if it makes sense, it makes sense. You know what I'm saying? The ignorant atheists, you can probably tell them that, this is that, and they'll be like, oh, that's just luck. That just so happened to be there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But if it makes sense and there's evidence for it, like, that's what you call an open person. But that, like I said, it's like also, like, for example, Jason, he said he's open, but he doesn't go too far because, of course, you don't want to skew the line between you believing and not believing. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, of course, you're going to be open, but it's like that with, like I said, with the bottle. It's like that for every perspective. Everybody has those closed lines to where they're willing to accept and willing not to accept. But when you're ignorant, and there's ignorance in everyone when it comes to certain things. But with this particular topic for both sides, with, religious and non-religious, that's where you can find it. Like, you want to be able to be peaceful with that, but at the same time, it's just the ignorant ones that don't want to listen,
We're going to get Mike a I disagree bottle. I disagree jar and fill it up.
Yeah. I say this because I do agree with you. It is ignorant people and whatever you believe in. Mm-hmm. But, dang, it left my brain.
What about different types of atheists?
It's something you said. It left my brain. When they come back, I got you. Okay, I got you. Go ahead, Key.
So, I was just recently speaking with an atheist, and it's a very difficult thing to understand the difference, between, like, the fundamental difference. Like, yeah, he don't believe in God, duh. But the reason, it's like, because all of the evidence stacks up so well on our side, and it feels like, yo, this should be perfectly understandable to believe in God. But it's like, why is it the atheist views, it's like that's I feel like that's the big difference. Like, the atheist has a mind to think of fine-tuning, and he's okay with that being random. He's okay with what do they call it, like, complicated existence or something. It's something about, like a complicated thing existing without a God. Like, they feel like we're assuming that God did this. Like, this could definitely just come from randomness. You're asserting that this couldn't happen. You're assuming that this random, complicated structure couldn't have just come about. And it's like, I just cannot get my mind wrapped around how you can go so far to think that. I mean, I feel like you would have to assume that this room just came to being without anyone directing it. I feel like you would have to believe that things like that could happen all the time. So it's very crazy to me. But this is why I think the topic is interesting, because I was bringing up, like, there are different types of atheists, right? Mm-hmm. There are some that are, I want to say, like, okay, like, some people call themselves atheists, right? Mm-hmm. And it has different meanings to so many people.
Right. Like,
one person will say, I'm an atheist, but I believe in a higher power. And another person will say, no, there is no higher power. And then another person will say, well, everything came from this interesting form of nothing. And I'm like, well, that invisible thing that you couldn't see, that you thought was nothing, was probably God. But, so I don't know. Like, would you agree that there are, like, many different types of atheists, and you would have to, like, speak to that particular person a different way than the next atheist?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So I want to get into, like, how would you guys, like, witness to an atheist, or are they lost? There's no point. Like, I don't know. Like, where would you?
I think that would be the third. There's the people who don't believe, and the people who are, confused, and there's lost. Because, there's the people who are probably like, hey, I don't believe in a God, but then I still think I pray to a God, and you're just confused in the middle. That would probably be a third. So if there is a third, if you,
If it is a what?
yeah, if there is a third, if you like believe in that, or if you don't.
I say it's only two views. You got the view of people that's not foolish.
Right.
And I'm not trying to offend you or anybody, but I'm gonna call it what it is.
No, I get it.
It's the view of people that's not foolish and leaning to their own understanding.
Right.
And trying to make sense out of something you can't make sense of, because God and common sense is two different things. And then you got people that acknowledge the presence of God. You know what I mean? Because for one, God is a spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even my pastor said this, and I agree with him on this. Everybody that got breath in their body believe it's a God. You know it is. It's just being an atheist, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happened is, due to whatever trauma it may have been, or drama, it causes you feel me? It causes you to dislike God. I'm not serving a God that'll kill kids. But God explained why kids go to hell. He explained why kids die. You see what I'm saying? So, again, when it comes to the atheists, yeah, they all believe in God. I don't care how foolish and how ignorant, how dumb, or whatever they doing, they believe it's a God. But then they all got in common, too, that there is no God. This is what they believe. So it's like, when it comes to the atheists, man, people like you said, how you witness to an atheist, it's more or less kind of boiling down. Even with you, I don't know at what point you went from being an atheist to what you is now, or what caused it. But I can honestly say and tell you, it's a God. That's why you led to where you led to. Mm-hmm. But due to lack of understanding, not an intimate relationship with Christ, caused you to be at that place because you didn't know something. Right. I need information. I need understanding. You know what I mean? So, it's not really a third view. It's only two. The ones that acknowledge who Christ is, and the ones who don't want to put no respect, don't want to reverence God, and they acknowledge that their mom didn't birth them because their father was intimate with her. God had his sex in the beginning.
Whoa,
crazy. But yeah.
Wait a minute there, buddy. Hold on, what you bringing mama drama into this?
I just had to say.
So, what did you mean by lost? Just to clarify.
So lost. That's why I say. I understand that too, because like I said, I understand.
Yeah. Go ahead and check my boy. Don't need.
Yeah, I understand that.
You heard my check.
No, I don't. No, I don't. There's a way to. Yeah. So, I would say there's three, because there's black and white, and there's always gray. There's always gray.
Yes, sir.
We all believe, so when it goes back to physical things, you went back to what you said, that there's two.
Mike.
There's always.
I'm sorry.
Again, too.
That was my fault. I'm tuned in because he's not.
What you saying?
I'm gonna say this. He's not ignorant. He might not be fully in, but he's not ignorant. So it kind of had me locked on him and didn't pay attention to the camera. But go ahead, my guy. Continue.
Okay. So it goes back to the physical standpoints that you said. People, there's things that come into play that make people change their mind on anything, not even just religion. It just changes their mind on anything. Yeah. But when it comes to the facts of anything, there are lines. And when you draw them, there are always going to be things that come into middle, which are called complexities of the subject. Or there can be simplicities of the subject.
Okay.
When it comes to something like, for example, if we were talking cosmology, right? Mm-hmm. So when it comes to religion itself, since it's in nature philosophical, there will always be a middle line. So it would have to be three references to be in between it. But if it was, so for just a, lackadaisical type of project of an answer, right?
All right. Talking.
Or setup. Let's just say that there was a circle and the whole thing was their fact based that there was a God, right? There would not be there would be on a universal scale. People think, well, especially in theory, when we get to talking about logical, right? In theory, and I forgot the name of the theory, but in a universal standpoint, things start to make less sense the more information dispersed across time. Okay. So the more, for example, the more things that's in this room, the less you'll be able to focus on as many things in this room. So this is what atheists kind of make a plethora of assumptions to. So you're not able to make a logical type of answer. That's why there's always a three there's a 3. There's an in between lost, because there's most likely people that I've only met, like I said, I only talk on my experience. I've only met one person that was like that. So they were just, because she was very educated. She's in, she's in college now. She was very educated. Yeah. It's just, she couldn't, really decide which one, because there's so many things that she had to go against the other. You know what I'm saying? So on a cosmology level, just universally things start making less sense the more you learn something. So that's why there will be the person in between. But if you have, of course, it'll be easier to pick one side if you have more information for the other. This is, proven. But that also goes into something called chaos theory. So chaos theory is about multiple complexities in the subject more and more over the first time. So, for example, Jason, right? If he's had less experiences in his life that would distinguish him from believing in God, then of course he would choose God. There wouldn't be a gray area for him. But since we're talking about people, people have complexities, chaos theory. Yeah. There's different things that people can think at any given time. Yeah. This is called consciousness, right? Yep. So Jason is going to pick this because he doesn't have any other evidence unless he just wants to. So that would just be so that would just be a decision. But he's here now and what he is. I'm here, he's here, you're here, because you have more evidence to pick something over than the other. But of course, mathematically, if you have more of something and more of something, and like 50-50 on both sides, then you're here.
And you're applying that for the people perspective of atheists and people that say, I'm gonna say Christians. We ain't even gonna speak on other people, so-called gods. So you're saying that in the sense 50-50 in the sense of those Christians and those atheists.
I'm talking about atheists. I'm saying he was saying the people that were the atheists who were, like, we were talking about 3 different atheists. Yeah. Those are people who are believe, like I said, there's people who believe in a God. They're like, because I believe what you're saying to a sense, that because I've read a lot of stuff on this, but I can't remember exactly.
And you're a Christian too, so you're good. Yeah. You're a Christian too.
But yeah, so back to the theory, right? So there's names of the theories.
He's a chematism.
Yeah, somewhat. But like I said, there's names of the theories, but I won't get into them. But I'm just explaining them. But I already explained it. So like it's just like he said that he believes that there's 2, but then I said there could be 3 because, like I said, if you're talking about 3 atheists, there's the ones that don't believe at all, right? Then there's the people that are atheists. Well, atheists in the definition is not believing that there's anything anywhere.
I'm happy you went. I'm gonna go there. So you good.
But
you good.
What, like he said, now we have to go into the complexities of the human mind. He said he met people that were atheists, but said that, hey, I believe in a higher God, God. You feel me? So when you pick that, now we add more things. Like I said, chaos theory. We just added more things to the subject. Now it became more complex. You feel what I'm saying? So now that we're here, like I said, you draw the line because there's always a middle to anything. Like I said, that's 50-50 because not 50-50 in the Christian standpoint, just in the atheist.
Yeah,
like
I get you coming.
Yeah, okay. So there's the other side, and there's the people that are supposedly atheists and do believe there's a higher power, just not a Christian higher power. I would say. I don't know.
Yeah, that don't make sense. But go ahead. You good?
So yeah, but then like I said, there has to be a middle ground there because that's of course, since a gray area in definition is lost. If you're at a gray area and you can't choose one thing from another, what are you?
You definitely lost.
You definitely lost. Limbo. So that means that's your third. At least in my opinion.
I guess so. Basically, the third is extended from foolishness and understanding and getting it and realizing that Jesus is real. That's basically what you're saying.
Yes.
All right, bet. I got you.
Okay. So I would just say, you see the top two eyes, you can hit those. At the top.
Oh,
you were just there, buddy. Yeah. And when you see Jason's, you can do it on his too.
Okay.
Okay, so I want to first so first of all, I just want to ask you before we move on to Jason's way of witnessing to an atheist. Would you say that you really sincerely did not believe in God? Like, what type of atheist were you, I would say? Or was it like, I knew God was real, but I kind of doubted him? Like, so which one is it? So,
well, there's a statistic on this. We could probably look it up later if you're into it. But most children start off with, it's pretty much aligns with what he said. Most children, or most people, all of us have most likely been raised in a household to where we start off believing in something, correct? So so don't take this the wrong way.
You're good. You're good.
No, because I'm saying that in a way of like, because some people take this word in the wrong way, but I would
misinterpret.
We won't
yeah,
get
misinterpret.
offended. We won't
Okay,
get
He's saying you
offended.
might misinterpret.
yeah, you might misinterpret it.
All right.
So I'm
Pay
gonna
attention, Mike.
I'm gonna start with this. It's what people call the definition is religious indoctrination, not in a bad way, because like I said, I respect. Well, no, I haven't said this yet. My bad. I respect Christianity.
I'm making you nervous.
No.
Oh, okay.
I just
Man's theology mixed with the truth.
yeah.
That's how he.
I
knows.
respect Christianity. So because I believe in what works people do in the name of God. So
Jesus.
Sorry.
Okay, there you go. Appreciate
And
you.
and what people do
Stupid.
in the name is fine. But that's the thing though. I just respect goodness in general. It doesn't really matter to me from a logical and from a religious standpoint. If I see one's like of something, one particular set of something influencing in a good way, I have nothing against it. You know what I'm saying? So having said that, this goes into what I'm saying here.
Okay.
When it comes to witnessing, there's just, like I said, there's just, chaos theories. Just you have to be able to witness your particular set. You know what I'm saying? But that's why I try to learn as much as possible. So if we're gonna, it's okay to get into this. My personal reason on why I was atheist, right?
Do your thing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't any trauma or anything like that. I just wanted to know more before. Like I had a logical. I was a brown noser type kid.
You didn't want to accept it until
Yeah, I didn't
you
want to
knew.
accept something until I knew for sure, which is a logical standpoint. Which is it's a human condition to be able to.
I like how you try to slick correct me, but go ahead. I like that. I like that. Go ahead, continue though. I like
Because he
that.
did correct you. If you're gonna be honest.
He did. Go ahead. I ain't
Learn
cut
your
you.
lesson, Mike. Don't come at my boy. Jamar, what were you saying, bro? Because this sucker crazy.
But yeah, I was one of those. I don't know. Like I said, I speak from perspective. I've never met anyone who didn't accept a religion because they just wanted to know other things first. So I just learned as much as I could possible, or still learning before I give my entire being into something. You know what I mean? Because then it's also growing up. I'm pretty sure all of you guys know this. Growing up, you would meet people who say they're Christian, right? But only care about it when their life is going good. You know what I'm saying? Or only care about it when it's benefiting them in the shorter term. And then there's people that just say they do, but you don't see them at church. You don't see them doing anything. You know what I'm saying? That's why I say I respect Christianity more than anything, because, people are putting in the work and, doing things in the name of Jesus.
Wow, my boy did the two fingers. But okay.
So
Okay.
He put it in quotations because he quoting you.
I know what he's doing.
Make sure he get it right.
make sure I'm getting
You
it right.
good. You good.
So
I'm
yeah,
you right.
it's just like that. So that's what and then there wasn't anyone who influenced me in that way. I just particularly had that mindset when I was younger, just be like, I don't want to, just jump into something like a body of water and be like, because that's I like to be honest. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to get into something and be like, okay, I believe in this when my heart is in it.
I get you.
Yeah,
I get you.
My heart isn't it.
Let me ask you a question, my guy.
Yes, sir.
So now I'm thinking, I gotta make sure I come my
He's arguing with your past self.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good.
So good people, right?
Yes,
Because
sir.
I hear this all the time from people that's not Christians. I hear from Christians.
Mhm.
Good people somehow. Do you believe in when you die you go to another place? I'm gonna ask you that first.
Ooh, that's a loaded question.
Oh, you believe? Go ahead though.
No, I believe.
Yeah, I can see.
We can clear that up right now.
Uh-huh.
I believe that you do, but like I said before, like with chaos theory, with a lot of things that I've learned, I would definitely say there's evidence to point towards it. But that's why I say I don't like when atheists just, the ignorant atheists
Yeah,
just go like,
ignorant, yeah.
there's obvious signs of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, for example, when atheists say that God can't exist because you can't see him, right?
Yeah.
So let's just get rid of the big O's.
Yeah. Those are the
And,
easy
that's
ones.
for example, do you love someone?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Can you see love?
Huh?
Can you see love?
Yeah.
No, you
No.
can't.
You can't see
What's
that.
it look like?
I'm talking about, can you see it passing through the air to touch
Okay. No.
The
Right.
element of love.
the element? So you can't really see love, but it can transmit between people, right?
Yeah.
You can feel it in yourself, but you
Yeah.
can't transmit it physically, right?
Yeah.
God can be the same way, which you can agree to, right? Or,
Yeah, I agree.
or Jesus
I agree.
too. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I appreciate
So it can go the same way.
Mhm.
So when atheists say stuff like that, but that goes into philosophical as well.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we get to that point yet. But I don't want to get too much into it.
Nah, you good. You good.
But that goes into philosophical.
We'll get into some chats and then we'll
Right.
go
So
more into the philosophical.
Right.
But
So that goes into that with physical. You there's a lot of things that you can't see. I'm pretty sure everybody's used this. It's old analogy. It's air.
Yeah.
You're breathing air. You can't see it. You know what I'm saying? Your precipitation, when it comes to water cycle or anything like that, there's things that you can't see that happen around you. So why not believe that there's something stronger than you happening that you can't see?
All right, because he about to go to the thing. So I just what I was gonna say, and then you go. Reason why I asked you that, because good people don't go to heaven. Wherever place you're gonna go when you die, because God said to be absent from the body is present with the Lord. God said it. I didn't even say Jesus, even though he is Jesus. God said to be absent from the body is present with the Lord, right?
Right.
So we all know you're gonna go somewhere when you die. But it kind of get tricky because, and I'm not talking about is Jesus God right now. I'm just getting into the fact that if God said this, right?
Mhm.
Sorry, I make sure. If God said it right, if you got to go somewhere, and let's say it's heaven because this is what God said, because we obviously know Jesus and God won. So if you're going to go to heaven, a good person don't go to heaven. And the reason why I'm going here, because you said something that's, I like what you say. You support good people.
Right.
But what if I'm good? I'm so bad, I'm good. I rob people, right? To feed kids, homeless people. Brutally rob people, murder people because I feel justified because it's a good thing to do to feed the poor and hurt the rich. You support that?
So I would have to go into.
My bad.
Do you
Keith.
know who?
he going.
Do you know who Apollo? Do you know who Apollo is?
Somewhat.
Somewhat. So you would have to agree with some of his philosophical points on
What you
the
mean?
subject. Have you ever heard of ends justify the means?
Say it again?
Ends justifies the means.
No.
No. Okay, so this is a philosophical standpoint with
Okay.
Apollo. What he talks about in his books, ethnicities, not ethnics and morals. He talks about that every single person will have their own means and that will justify their ends. And I'm pretty sure this is in the Bible as well. If you catch it, you can, be like, cool. But if your ends justifies your means or your means justifies your ends, you will be held accountable for what happens in that end. So I don't agree with the latter of the situation. If you're doing bad things to do good things, you're not really doing good things or doing good things for your ends. Okay. If I kill all of you right now because I want to take all because I want to take all of you guys' money to feed my family, I'm doing bad things.
Yeah.
So I don't agree with that because that's not a good thing. It's just like for simplicity, two negatives don't make a positive.
Okay, I respect that, but I was just, even with the moral thing, the Bible will be a good book, a good moral book. You know what I mean?
It is.
Okay. So it left my brain.
You said something about
You gotta
somebody
start writing
being.
this stuff down.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I have to write all my stuff down.
My excuses, I just got off work.
So
You're
let's
right,
go
Jason.
let's go to some chats, guys. Always Learning says, can a Christian and an atheist be in a relationship? Should they be? Can they even be evenly yoked? Sorry if you already answered this. Well, Mike answered it in a previous podcast, but we could probably get into that maybe. Michaela Benson said, how can one understand or agree but not fully commit to something? Nakia said, trauma or drama? It's talking about you because you can't make up your mind what type of obstacle you want. Nakia said, how did Jamar choose his belief? Was his family that way or something happened? I don't think she knows who you are. Michaela said, I was like, Michaela said, how can you know, agree? All right, hold on a second. Y'all got to put your thinking caps on for this one.
Yeah.
Michaela Benson said, how can you know, agree that 1 + 1 = 2, but you're open to say 1 + 1 also equals 4, especially if nothing proves or is evident to back up the openness of 4? It's a good question. Nakia said, okay, I'm not gonna read that one. Nakia said, don't make no kind of sense. I don't know who you're talking about. Nakia says, by very definition, an atheist cannot believe in a higher power. Yeah, I would definitely agree. But they just call themselves atheists. So always learning says, I'm sorry, going back to that bottle of water, you know by what someone told you that it has H2O in it, and it's called water. Why is it so hard to believe in God but believe that it is water? Believe that is water. Nakia said, sorry, he believed the chair was going to hold him before he sat in it, so he has faith for something but not the others. And always learning said, thank you, gentlemen. Gym time. Please keep educating. Oh, I thought she was saying we needed gym time. I was like, you don't see it like Elite Jamar, you know, we good. But she's going to the gym. Enjoy your workout, sister. Nakia said Mike needs some ginkgo.
Ginkgo.
Is that what you look like?
He needs some memory. Some memory vitamins.
Oh, snap.
He needs some memory vitamins.
He needs to sharpen his pencil. That's
right.
Yeah, you need to.
I'm moving off of fumes. I just get off.
So Jason Greenwood, but he ain't green. How would you witness to someone that is an atheist?
Well, you gotta have always have an end, right? So
you gotta kill him to get a good end.
I mean, you gotta do. I mean, you know, the Bible. If you look at how Paul did it, you know, Paul.
He killed Christians.
Paul
is that what you're talking about?
Killed Christians and then converted.
Yeah.
About the new Paul.
To an end.
That was Saul. When he said, you know, to the Jew, I'm
yeah.
Jew, to the Greek, I'm a Greek. And because when you're talking about converting somebody, it's not a one-stop, like one conversation kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think and a lot of Christians, I think, drop the ball on this quite often, and probably more so than they want to admit. They don't want to build relationships with people that aren't
true
on their level. And so if you're not careful, Christians will be the first ones to kick you to the curb and you'll be an outcast and not have that grace and that love and do it all in the name of Jesus. So I think when you're talking to somebody, you know, that has no belief, and it's kind of what he was saying, like if they're in that gray area, there's not a whole lot of anything you can say, but you're not going to know that till you talk to them.
Right.
And I think you have to find, just like with anything else, that end. And once you and what I mean by that end, it could be sports, right? It could be finance. It could be what we're talking about today. It could be history.
It could be hair curl. Jail.
Any of that.
Yeah, it could be hair curl, Joe.
Wow.
So
it could be can too. It could be can too.
And so you find that end, you find that common ground, and then you kind of build a rapport right there, and then start to have a discussion like this.
Right.
You know, the minute it gets heated and the minute you start blocking people out, nobody's going to win. Nobody's going to walk away from that any better than when they might even be worse off, you know, because as you'll drive somebody further away. And see, all this is in scripture, you know, when the Bible talks about the blind leading the blind and the Pharisees, you made your proselyte worse than you. There's a chance for you to still kind of convert, but you've convinced them and gave them an example. They're further away. You'll never convert them, you know. And there's Christians, and there's one thing I will say with Mike, I don't quite agree with the being born. We're all born with this belief, and it's always there. Even if we're all born with it, you can change your belief. You can change it, and you know, you'll be a reprobate before you're scripturally be a reprobate, and then there is no more belief. It's kind of reversed. But you don't know any of this till you actually start having a conversation with somebody. and like I said, find that common ground and go, okay, but we don't want to spend time building relationships. Let's be honest. And I don't think that's a Christian thing. I think it's just people. Like, especially as you get older, it's like, man, I just don't want to talk. I don't have anything in common with them.
Right. Yeah.
Because I've, working the way I have, I've been able to have conversations with people all over the spectrum. I mean, it was. I've had conversations with venture capitalists. I've had conversations with people in trailer parks. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, all different stations of life, ethnicities and cultures, and I learned to just kind of embrace it to a degree. Like for instance, one of the funniest things I ever did was photograph the Hindu summer festival they do, where they throw the colored chalk. I don't know if it's a summer thing they do. It's a religious thing. I had a blast. I mean, I was just taking pictures of it, but it was they were throwing it at me, and they cooked. It was a really great experience, and being exposed to that kind of stuff, I don't know. I think it's an advantage. Some people are afraid of that kind of thing, and it's a lot of Christians are, because this kind of goes back to what you were talking about, the religious indoctrination. You're raised this way, and I see it a lot in our denomination. If you don't look this way, then you're going to hell. If you don't act this particular way, like us, you're going to hell. And that's not necessarily scripture. That's just indoctrination. That is, like you said, this is all I know. So anything that's different than that scares me.
Right.
And again, I mean, there has to be a line there. Like, you have to know, and that's what I was talking about when I was talking about me. Like, I'm open to the fact, because, I was out of church for almost over a decade. I was in it, and then it was like, you know what, forget this. What good is it to me? You know what I mean? Like, you reach that point, and then kind of got back in it, and I was like, all right, I'm going to start from ground zero. All right. And the first question is there a God? How do I convince myself that there is, and I'm probably biased to being raised around it. So
is that when you asked that question? Or you're just saying that's the first one you asked?
That was one of the first ones I asked.
When you came back?
When I came back.
Oh, wow.
Because, again, because there was never a question. I had a question that nobody could ever answer me. Like, if I'm doing everything in Scripture that I'm supposed to be doing, I'm doing what the pastor says, I'm doing what this, why is my life falling apart? Nobody, and to this day, nobody has ever answered that question.
Yeah, that'll probably form a lot of atheists.
So I can relate to him in that sense. Like, I get being so, and I had a friend I went to college with that I didn't get a lot of the details, but she was very, very anti-Christian. I mean, we got along great. We had a lot of good times together, but she was raised really strict and very similar to what this is. And I was like, something happened, and it caused her to run away. So I ended up just kind of going, okay, I'm going to start from ground zero. And is there anything to this, And one of the thoughts I had was, well, the very fact that I can ask that question to me says something. I like, for instance, and it might be what's that word I'm looking for? Where it just kind of loops in on itself. Recursion argument? A recursive statement, meaning like, I know there's a God because I'm questioning that there is a God. Mm-hmm. Because if there wasn't a God, why would we ever question that there was a God?
Yeah.
And so then I was like, okay, well, at least I got something to work with. And I just kind of structured it from there. And then I took it to more doctrinal stuff. Like, okay, again, like, I can relate to the overstimulation, right? So you walk into this room and you walk out, you might remember 2, 3, 5 things.
Right.
But if there's only one thing in here and you walk in and walk out, you're going to remember that one thing. Right. So I get the overstimulation of it. However, because I'm coming from a Christian, biblical standpoint, the Bible does say, his spirit draws you in, draws the people in. So I think that there's an active rejection that happens with people, and it's not necessarily atheists. It just could be, there's probably more atheists than want to admit it. A lot of Christians, if I can be raised in Christianity, get mad at it, and I don't practice, I don't do any of it. I mean, you're an atheist in practice, right? Yeah. So I think that's, but anyway, back to my approach would be just, again, find that common ground and say, okay, where do they stand? And they might be right. If you're right, then I want to be right too, you know. But the other question is, what's the benefit of it? I got the benefit of, if I die, I go to heaven, you know. Why do I want to not believe in God from that point, you know? And now again, that might be a bias in me, but I never saw the value in not believing in God, if that makes sense, you know. Uh, I think it cheapens it to call it a higher power, but I think that's, like you said, I'm just not gonna call it a chair, you know. And I think there's just people that outright, that's a water bottle, right? You can deny that that's a water bottle, but we know it's there. Like, there's just people that are just going to always deny it no matter what the evidence is, you
Right.
know. And that goes for Christians. That's not, again, exclusive to atheists, you know. But I do think more people are closer to agnostic than they probably admit, you know, that there's a possibility, but I'm just not convinced of it, you know. And I've studied a little bit of other religions, you know, in school and stuff, and again, just talking to people, just relating to people, you get to see we're all human at the end of the day, man. We're all really just trying to find happiness, joy, you know. And uh, that is one thing, I guess, with Christianity. If you're really living this thing and you're really doing it, I mean, it should be powerful. You know,
Right.
it should move people and it should move things. The Bible says you should be able to move mountains, you know. And I mean, just that alone to me is kind of attractive, you know. I'm not out here moving mountains, but the point is, you know, spiritual mountains, if you want to go that
Metaphorically,
way.
you moving mountains,
But
man.
but I think it's got to be personable, man. You got to be able to have an intelligent conversation, and that's where it goes wrong a lot of times. Christians become uneducated. They do one thing, they listen to the pastor or preacher on Sunday, and that's it. And you ask them what the message was, you know, on Monday morning. Oh, it was about what was the script?
It's about
Oh man, I
God, you
don't,
know.
you know, because they don't study that, you know.
Right.
They don't really get it for themselves, uh, and so they get into a discussion, they can't carry their weight, you know.
Right.
And so I've made it a point to kind of do some of that, you know, and study, and just, you don't have to have an extensive knowledge, but study history a little bit. See if the Bible is really wrong, right? Can we trust it? You know, did somebody get a hold of it and rewrite it, you know? And you can take that too far. There's people that, I mean, there's no errors, nothing wrong with the Bible, it's perfect. Well, nah, there's been some grammatical errors. There was actually a Bible, I can't remember if it's 100 years ago, that in the Old Testament, instead of, they left out 3 letters, right? So instead of thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt commit adultery. So if you have that Bible, it's,
Oh, man.
you know what I mean?
Oh,
So,
jeez.
so
Somebody
how
having a
far
good
do you,
time with that
how
one.
far do you take it? You know what I mean? So I think it goes back to having a little bit of intelligence to, you know, I mean, or not intelligence, but common sense, you know, with it too. So, but I'm just big on that, you know. I'm not necessarily big on building relationships. Don't get me wrong. You know, as far as having a whole conversation, you know, and doing that long term, and that's a hard thing to do by yourself.
Right.
But I think stuff like this doesn't, and I think, you know, coming to church is one thing. That's its own environment.
Right.
You're not gonna necessarily win somebody at church, if that makes sense. Like it's great that you're there and you can have those conversations, but it's this stuff that does it. It's, let's go grab coffee, right? Let's go grab lunch and talk about life, you know. That's how you that's a slow burn, I think, that most of us don't want to commit to, because we're, you know, we got life and family, and so I get a certain level of it, but I think that's part of what it takes, you know.
So it's like slow and steady wins the race. And a lot of times people, say Christians, will have it in their mind to want to use their wisdom instead of letting God demonstrate his power, right?
Yeah, and I think, you know, you got to give them something to work with, right? You know, so like, you can't go here and plow a field where you ain't got the tools. You're not gonna have an intelligent discussion with somebody if you haven't had some learning, and it can be mainly biblical or mostly biblical with a touch of, you know, cosmology and, you know, history and things like that. But and I mean by the slow burn, it's more of a waiting for the right opportunity, and then when you do, you strike hard and fast, if that makes sense. You know, like Because the first conversation I have with somebody, it might not produce anything except, oh, you like football. But as we hang out for football, well, maybe now the conversation turns to, oh man, I had a argument with my wife. You know what I mean? And then, okay, now ministry comes in. And because that's really, we call it witnessing, but it's really ministry. You know, I mean, that's what it is. Witnessing is, hey, Jesus loves you. Da, da, da. But I think in this social climate,
Jesus loves you, man.
It's like
that's in all the Pureflix movies.
It's Christianity's kind of got this bad connotation to it. You know, a lot of Christians, you hate to even use the term Christian. Oh, I'm a Christian, you know, and I think that's just part self-inflicted and part just part of what it is. You know, Christianity is actually
offend somebody by saying that.
Right, but it's always been an aggressive religion. I mean, from the start. Even when you see Paul going to the Greeks in the Bible, he's oh, you see that God you're worshiping? Yeah, that's Jesus. Like, that's aggressive, right? He just renamed their God. There's an unknown God. He gave it a name. That's bold. Let somebody come in here and tell us, yeah, that wasn't really Jesus' name. You know, people might be. You heard somebody's feelings say, Matthew's name really, it wasn't Matthew, guys. Nobody was named Matthew in Israel in 0 BC or whatever AD, 3 AD. Those are European names, right? That's just a translated name. Yeah. And so, and even when you go historically in some of the Old Testament stuff, and I'm trying to think of some examples, but I can't. But they'll use names, right, of places and stuff like that that really wasn't the name. But what they've done is, like, Atlanta used to be called, I think, Terminus. Okay. But if you start referring to Atlanta as Terminus, nobody's going to understand what you're saying. So you refer to it as Atlanta. So it got changed, or, what, Conquered or something like that. I can't remember what the detail was now, but basically, but if you don't have any kind of knowledge and somebody throws that at you, you're stuck. Oh, that's the Bible's wrong, but no, not really. It's just, it's a practical way of writing. It's really so people can understand it. The people that were reading it could relate and go, oh, he's talking about that place or that. Well, it wasn't never that person, but that place. And so but you got to give God something to work with. You can't just assume that you're going to have this osmosis assimilation of great knowledge. I'm not saying it's impossible completely. I mean, I've been at trivia and pulled some stuff out that I didn't know. I was like, oh, yeah, and surprised myself. But I think sometimes we get I say over spiritual in that aspect. It's like, well, I just want to be so spiritual that I don't deal with anything on the natural side, but you have to, like if you and I can't have a conversation, the first time we meet, God might not even come into the conversation in the picture, right? It might be working out, right? We meet at the gym and, hey, we start up a conversation, and then we start regularly seeing each other. Then that's opportunity there, But if I can't talk to you about fitness, then I'm certainly not going to be able to talk to you or have the opportunity to talk spiritual to you. And so I don't mean to go on about it. I just, Mike's been talking this whole time.
Yeah,
Wow.
Finally, somebody else. But I first time I saw, like, I grew up in the church. First time I saw, like, an atheist, right? Like, I had a conversation, and I was telling him, hey, you want to come to church? He was like, oh, I don't believe in God. The first time I heard that, I wasn't ready. It was like, it offended me. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I'm never asking anybody to come to my church again.
And you don't have a response to it.
Like, no, I had no response. But then I started looking at some videos on this stuff. Is God real? Does God exist? I was like, what is an learning about the term atheist. And then I was like, oh my goodness. I advise everybody to go into this topic with caution, because once you get in that chamber of not knowing, that is that gray area. I think I'm explaining my gray area a little differently. It's a scary place to be, because you can come out of there and not believe in God.
Yep.
And just to, like you said, you don't want to set your mind on a definite answer. So, I mean, I would say if you're gonna do that, you might as well. Well, wait, I'll let you get it accommodated. But I would say if you're going to set your mind on a definite answer and you want to chance it, you might as well chance it with God, right? Because you get eternal life, but then there's some drawback because you have to do what He says, and then you have to reconcile of the Bible. Probably like people were stoned and there was slavery, so it's like I gotta make that sound good. I don't want to come off fake. Do I want to stone a bunch of people that I don't agree with? Like, then you have to figure that side out. So there are weights, but it's like I would rather take the one where I get to live eternally. But you said you disagree.
You don't want to live eternally, Mike?
You don't want to live eternally? Well, somewhere at least, right?
Oh no, I was I was saying I disagree on the part where like I wouldn't even play that game. Now I get it. You want to know if God true. Or
like I said, enter with caution.
Yeah, I agree with you, Keith.
Sometimes the atheist ministry ain't for everybody. I don't know. It's just stick
no.
to your belief with God.
And not even just that. I mean, anybody knows what they're doing. I mean, you're not careful and you're really foolish about it. You'll get turned too. And
they think they won't.
So we always look at it from our perspective, like, but there's people out there trying to convert Christians too.
Yeah,
so.
They think it's a lot of bad in Christianity,
right? And so you definitely, and even when I was talking about, when I was like baseline studying, like if I didn't establish that, God is real first, then I was gonna go off the rails for sure.
Yep.
But once you establish that, then it gives you that boundary and go, okay, well, now I'm just working out the nuances of different doctrine and things like that. But but if you don't come from this stuff, we have the luxury of living in this country, but I mean, think about like China, right? Where you can't openly worship except how they want you to, and believe how they want you to, or any some of the Middle Eastern countries where they use religion really to control the people. A lot of times over there, it's been there forever, and it's a cultural, and Islam is, but you have the different dynamics in Islam as well. You got your extremists that we've had obviously over here. But when you read about some of it, because I remember reading Malcolm X's autobiography, and he had a life-changing moment when he went to Mecca, right? He was into the Nation of Islam here, and he led it. He was running with it. Goes to Mecca and comes back a changed man because he saw a whole different facet of it. So, but all this, if you're open to change and doing, like you said, what's good and what's right, you still have to make that decision of, okay, this is the way I'm going to go, because there's a lot of choices out there, and, like you said, you're coming from atheist to the Kemet. Is that, am I saying that right? Yeah. That's what I thought you were doing about the Egypt. I was like, Kemet sounds like a Egyptian kind of god, if I remember right, or pharaoh.
It's not a god, but it's just more like it's a what you would call like a minority religion.
Oh, okay.
Because it's not like a big one, but it's just more like a following of people, like following a certain set of philosophical things. But it's not like you worship a god.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So you can and you may change your mind today, tomorrow, next week. You may never change your mind. But I think there's a danger to being closed mind, as well. I think he's miss out on a lot of stuff. I mean, but we tend to overcomplicate things as humans, I think. And you're paralyzed with indecision. And I think you were talking about the educated lady, the college earlier, it was too much, so she just decided not to believe in anything, right? That's a cop out, right? We're not gonna believe in anything.
Right.
I mean, the truth is she probably believes in something, but nothing organized and structured. But I can relate to it. I really can. I mean, you can have a lot of stuff going on in your head that's left and right, and they can both seem equally weighted a lot of times. How come? Why does God let us suffer? Why does God let us, lose loved ones? And there's answers to those questions biblically, but it don't make you feel better, right? It doesn't make you want to love God anymore necessarily. I think that takes a different experience, and that's one of the things I would speak to is experience. That you can do all the knowledge. I mean, have all the knowledge, do all the searching, reading, and writing, and all that. But what's always really kept me is the experience. Church is an experience, but outside of that, I mean, you'll see so many miracles that you forget them, which is sad. Especially in our, I've been around a lot longer than these guys have, but I've seen a lot of
just a
stuff over
little,
the years,
just a little
and
longer,
You see the gray hair on them, right?
just a little longer,
so
2 or 3 years.
so I think the experience really carries a lot of weight, at least when it comes to this. I mean, I can't speak for other religions, but at least from mine, that true experience, God experience, it's real. Like I can't sit here and say it's not real. You might put some distance between the event and now. 10 years from now, memories fade, and that it's not as powerful, but it still happened. It's still true. My wife is her son. He's 6. Was a true miracle. Like it was impossible for it to happen, and yet it happened. You know what I mean? And when they announced that, I mean, that church just exploded, and because we knew, it had been years in the making, and so you see that over and consistently. Your granddad, and that's big. And again, that we can do all the physics conversations and the the scientific stuff and all that, but man, when you feel that and you see that, you're not gonna convince me.
Yeah, when it's tangible, you can experience it. That's like the confirmation. Guys, if you're enjoying the content, please like the video. That's the best way to help the algorithm and help this video get everywhere. And also subscribe if you're feeling it. Now, Mike, you just said like the gray area is something that's not something that you think any Christian should get into, or specific ones.
I would say I don't recommend no Christian, because the gray area at the end of the day is just chaotic. It's
chaos theory.
Yeah, go with what you said. So, and it's a place where obviously you don't believe in, because to be a Christian, like Jason said, the Bible teaches us, is to follow Christ, be like Christ. So to go in that place, no. Even back to the part where I said, I don't recommend, if you're trying to find God, dipping and dabbing in different religions. And I could be one-sided with this because I am a Christian.
Right.
But even before I fully gave my life to Christ, right, I got the opportunity, maybe it wasn't a good one, but I got the opportunity living in Jersey, dealing with Catholics, Muslims, and these different things. And before I even fully got a chance to have a relationship with Christ, it was something always off. Yeah, no offense. Atheists, biggest cop out. Like y'all don't believe in nothing. And I'm just speaking general. Y'all don't believe in nothing. So y'all way off the radar. Versus a Muslim, a Catholic. At least they believe in something. And at the end of the day, they pulling from the very thing I believe in, the word of God, the Bible. You see what I'm saying? Mary for Catholics, Muslims, that started in the Council of Nicaea. It all extend from the word of God. So at least they doing that. So as for Christians, I would say no. I don't recommend a Christian that's so-called trying to get to know Christ or get to know God and go trying to look. And even in your case, I don't recommend you, because you are a Christian, despite if you believe it or not. You are a Christian. Take that, take it how you want to take it. But yeah, I don't agree you dipping and dabbing in certain stuff, because when you start to do that, what happens is, you understand, the devil real. These things is very like he said about Malcolm X, that clown. The thing about people like that. Oh, I don't have.
Malcolm X clown.
Yeah, he a clown. Wow. But I have my reasons,
He believed in God, didn't he?
I mean, whatever.
Hey, you just said you supported Islam. As long as they believe in, he believed.
Oh no, I don't. I'm gonna tell you right now, no shame, and I do it out of love and respect to a certain extent. I respect you, and I say the respect part. I respect people enough to let them know. All right, not me, not my opinion. Even with the water thing, that what you were saying, I understood, but it all extends from our opinion, our perspective.
Yeah, that's what's it.
But like Jason said, we know what it is.
Right.
And that's what God kicked in. You know, God said, let every man be a lie. You know, I don't have to preach to you. You most likely should know these things. Got a Christian mom. But back to what I was saying, the gray area, no. I don't recommend it. Now, it's a difference for Christians that's on the front line living it, because it's better to know your opponent. The Bible say you don't go to war without counting the cost, or building without counting the cost. So if for somebody that's on the front line, whoever that may be, yeah, study your opponent. Know the foolishness they believe in. Know the problems. But for a babe in Christ, or somebody that's trying to find Christ or seeking God, I always say the God who created the heavens, the God who created what you can see, that God, no. I would say it makes it very clear, and I'm trying to make it plain. It makes it very clear, according to the God who created the sky and all of that, that him and Jesus have a connection. So if you're going to go that route, no. Seek God. But before I give it back to Ken, but that's where the error come into, the gray area. A lot of people is trying to seek God, Jesus, without believing who he is. And you could say, no, I am. I come in and I give him a chance. That's not believing who he is. You going in with your mind, it's one of those, I'm going in trying. If it don't work, that's my excuse. Versus, let me go ahead and give it all I have. You see what I'm saying? And giving it all you have is putting these beliefs or what been put on you or told to you to the side and really get to know Christ. And then that's when the fire meets the rubber, or whatever, how they say, and the things start to kick in, and then God reveal himself. He don't reveal himself to everybody. That's why you got Muslims, one of the biggest religions in prison. It's convenient. Oh, I'm a dude. I can have mad wives. I could treat a woman as a till, as a property. I could cut her head off. Look, see the gain in that? You see how it benefits me? You know what I mean? So that's why I say stay away from the gray area if you're a Christian, because it puts you in a dangerous place. Because now you're playing the fence. I'm going to be honest with you. You can't be trying to get to know Christ and then trying to figure out a Muslim. You know, take out time to let God do what he do with you. And then when he puts you in a position to elevate you and have you preach the gospel, then learn your opponents. So, no, I would stay away from the gray area for all Christians. That's not in the front line.
I know Mike really puts a lot of things in people's heads. Like, although people be ready to speak after he get done. I just have one question.
What's up?
You said God does not reveal himself to everyone, but there's no such thing as a real atheist because everybody believes in God. Make that make sense to me, for me.
All right.
Commercial break.
Right. I'm going to say this.
Break it down.
And then y'all could just
yeah.
go where y'all want to.
Every person that got breath in their body knows it's a God. Now, let's go with what you said, because you try to throw shot like it. That it might not be. What you said. It might not be due to trauma, the reason why they atheists. In your case, right?
Yeah, that's a religious indoctrination, right?
You said what?
I said religious indoctrination.
What?
Religious indoctrination.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I get you. I hear what you said. So, what I was saying is all atheists believe it's a God, because you don't wake yourself up. When you look, even tangibly, visually, you know a God created that. That's why I know they know, despite how they project it or what they say out their mouth, that they know it's a God. They choose not to believe there's a God. And I'm not even putting a stamp of Jesus on it. Well, I ain't even going there. I'm just getting at the fact of that we know it's a God. Because as an ex-atheist, I guess I'll call you, what I would say, I'm trying to watch what I say. I ain't trying to offend, but I'm trying to be cordial. You feel me?
Remember, we grown men in here. Remember?
Huh?
We grown men in here. Remember?
We grown men. If we got to put the boxing gloves on after the live,
okay,
That's what
we
you told
would
him.
do that.
That's what you told me.
Yeah.
Y'all gotta understand.
We men, are we?
I'm not trying to come at him. His mother here.
See,
His mother wanted to be
Hey,
involved.
she can leave.
So that's what you worried about.
No, I'm just being fair. I'm being
worried about your
my
mom.
moms.
I'm being respectful. I don't want to feel like I'm attacking her son.
She don't play no games,
But I'm gonna say this honestly, with an atheist,
Heat it up now. Come on.
Heat it up.
Heat it up.
Stir the pot.
Bring
Stir
the
it
pot.
up.
Bring the
What?
smoke, Mike.
Saying.
y'all full of it. Atheist is full of it.
He's not an atheist no more.
No, I'm just speaking.
Nah, that's fine.
I'm just
No
speaking.
more.
No more. I respect it. I respect it. You're a Christian, like I said. But like all I'm saying is this. You believe there's a God. You just don't believe it's Jesus or whatever. So you with us.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
But not that.
So listen, as for atheists, they full of it. It's a lot of times it's despite what it may be, we know it's a God because you can't revive a loved one. Only God have the control to make alive. This is kind of naturally in your brain. It just sometimes you need somebody or something or a situation to bring it forefront for you to realize, dang, I am going to die one day. I am going to have that tag on my toe. Or these things. So that's why I go back to, atheists know it's a God. It's just a lot of them, like you said, you got ignorant, foolish, dumb atheists that will argue you down knowing with the breath God gave them and tell you it's no God when they know it's a God. Because you know what's funny about that, bro?
What?
I don't care what religion it is. And this I seen it with my own eyes and I heard it. Let all hell break loose. For some reason, they're going to be yelling Jesus right along with me. If all hell break loose, they're going to be yelling Jesus right along with me.
I've heard that one.
Huh?
I've heard that one, yeah.
Yeah, and it's facts. I'm not just saying it because it sounds
let this man respond at some point because he ready.
Oh, I'm about to...
No, I want to get the whole perspective. You can keep talking. It's forever.
Yeah. No, I'm going to just say that for right now. Yeah, they believe there's a God. Just like they believe it's a God. It's just, again, due to their situations, if it was trauma or they just they had that ungodly spirit called the world. Because, everything ministered to us. So when you're not brought up in God or nobody allow God or God to put seeds in you to get your attention, you'll grow up ignorant enough to say, nah, it's no God. You stupid for believing in that white man with long hair and a beard when this happened. Or
Jesus is white, y'all. Just deal with it. Not just like.
So all I'm getting at, I'm going to be quiet. Atheists believe there's a God. And you couldn't prove to me or anybody with common sense that they don't believe there's a God.
Because you don't want to get in that gray area.
You're not. Think about it. Why I'm gonna let somebody that's in the gray area, meaning they confused, try to tell me what's right? Make that make sense.
I say if they wrong, the gray area ain't gonna make a difference.
They can be in the gray area, be quoting scripture, and you gotta listen because they quoting scripture.
My boy got the smile on his face.
But yeah. If you were to say so, I'm not
y'all
trying
funny,
to.
man. I'm laughing.
Okay.
But
Just making sure if you got something to say, we're trying
say
to.
it.
Oh, of course, man. There's truth there, but of course, at the end of the day, no one can tell you anything that you believe is wrong. That's like that. So you met. I don't know if you said this before, but you've met a radical atheist before, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how did that conversation go? Like a brick, like water pushing against a brick wall, right? So it doesn't matter which side. Of course, you're not going to be able to convince somebody of anything that they feel like they firmly believe in. And in the gray area, of course, logically, common sense would tell you that I won't listen to somebody who doesn't know what they're even talking about. So that's with anything. So yeah, but when it comes to, religious or anything like that, of course, no one can tell you anything's wrong. There can be 15 atheists in this room and 15 Christians in this room. You will get nowhere because everybody will have valid evidence for each side. That's why it's kind of like what Jason said. You have to find a middle ground, and it can be something outside of that. But
I agree with that. I agree with that.
But you'll never get anywhere being like
aggressive.
This is this, because what evidence is in the first place, like this is called, evidence of God. What evidence is in the first place is finding actual evidence, finding something that people can, their rock. People talk about a rock, something that they can stand up on, their leverage to be able, like what Jason was saying, what can get them in. Like you need tools. The tools is the evidence, the facts. You know what I'm saying? So if you come in and you're just like, you believe in God, I don't care, you believe in God, then they're not gonna. Course you're gonna inspire hate towards against you. That's why I will have to assume that if you've had any type of trials and errors with radical atheists, it probably wouldn't go. Not against, like, not saying that you aren't good or knowledgeable in your area, but it's just with anything that has knowledgeable areas inside of it. If you're clashing against someone else who feels like they have that knowledgeable area, the quotation is because both sides feel like they have. knowledgeable areas, you're gonna be like this the whole time.
Yeah.
Because hey, God
you.
doesn't exist because of this. Oh, God exists because of this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying.
So yeah, it's kind of like what Jason said. You gotta find something that'll get them in. But like they're both. But you always have to remember that it's a rope of sand. Yes, it's kind of like what both of you said on that part. You can't. It's a rope of sand and a double-edged sword, I would say, because like you said, you can't get in. It's hard to not get into that gray area when you're trying to convince other people to get on the side of light. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of course you're gonna try to have to bring in stuff that they know to try to tie it into stuff that you know, so you can try to bring them in. You know what I'm saying? But if you know nothing, then of course, stonewall.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be, if you're just saying God is real, God is real.
That's not effective.
Yeah, that's not effective.
Yeah, I get you.
Because remember, they believe fully with their heart that opposite of what you feel.
Yeah.
So let's imagine like right now, I'm like, God doesn't exist. You're like, God does exist. God doesn't exist. God does exist. We'll be doing that like until we leave this podcast. You know what I'm saying? So you got to find a middle ground, and that's why people have these debates. These debates come from them find, like Jason said, there's connections in everything. That's even mathematical. Yeah. There's connections in everything. So if you look hard enough, and also that goes back to what I was talking about with religious indoctrination. Sorry, with religious indoctrination. Anyone that doesn't have the tool, like Jason said, will never be able to fully commit to something. Like, for example, with your wife, I'd assume, girlfriend, wife.
You're married to God.
You had a visitation.
Okay, so
okay, it came in the form of a woman.
Okay, so let's just say with a girlfriend, right? There's solid things there that make you to be able to attract yourself to her in the first place.
Yeah.
If there was nothing there, you wouldn't be with her. If there wasn't love, if there wasn't attraction, if there wasn't intimacy, you agree. There would be nothing for you to be able to stand on to be with this person. If there was also food. You need to read the solid facts in the food to let you know if you want to even trust yourself eating it or not. You look at the CDC quotations on restaurants. If it says, if a restaurant says 50 score, are you eating from there? No, you're not. No. They probably got fries. They probably got fries.
I was thinking about that.
We eat all that.
Well, I'm not.
Wait, Mike, you saw something at Waffle House, and they had an 87 score.
I mean, there is a curve to those.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know about y'all, but it's something about your grease. Cooking grease mixed with everything else that they mixing it when they cooking at a bodega.
I'm just getting high blood pressure listening to that.
Right.
Oh, wow.
I felt something in my gut move.
Yeah. But I mean, I also think I understand where Mike's coming from, of course, but the opposite of that is true. Like, I could tell you don't believe in God. Mm-hmm. That you were raised a certain way, you were put in a certain way and convinced to believe in God. Mm-hmm. And because you don't know anything else, so I think it's a dangerous line to walk when you start telling people that, oh, you do believe in God, you do. I think it's hard to tell people because a lot of people don't even know what they believe, and so I think it's kind of difficult. But the one thing we have to remember as Christians is it's a faith-based religion. All right, so that means that I'm not obligated to prove it 100%. 80%. That's a good number. If I can prove that, the Bible wasn't written by, a bunch of racist pigs in a room, I'm doing good, I think. Considering that a lot of historical documents that we rely on and teach on were just that.
Right. I would assume it to be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And if it was fake.
Because one of the things I've always said, like with the Bible itself, like you can't get people in a room now to agree on healthcare, let alone a religious document that spans thousands of years and has a continuity to it where it really doesn't deviate from that. I mean, it gets rough in the Old Testament, but taken in context, you see the evolution of it, right? I don't think we really comprehend how bad it was back then. The Bible says the thoughts of man were evil continually. I mean, we can kind of relate to that now, but I couldn't imagine I can imagine having no police.
Mm-hmm.
You rob me, I can just kill you, or you just kill me. Yeah, like that's I don't even know that I really can fathom it. So, so I think if we just are able to prove that, okay, it's not just some, stupid book that we're all just agreeing is this holy doctrine, heaven sent kind of thing, because when you do look at some other religions out there and you start to trace that back, they are fallible, like and I hate to call them out, but the Joseph Smith writings, the Mormons, I mean, he went out and God, gave him some tablets and some writings. Okay, but then they don't agree with some of the other stuff that's in the Bible. You know what I mean? So there's an inconsistency there. Whereas when you look at the Bible and the books of the Bible, there's consistency. And then I mean you can of course nail down on it and pinpoint. Oh well, he said love thy neighbor here, and he said oh go kill your neighbor over here, kind of stuff. But again, you have to take all that in context. So I think that's where I don't feel obligated to prove everything I believe. And that's where I think, I agree with Mike on the gray area thing as a Christian. Like, that's a danger. To live in that place is dangerous. But you'll cross that gray area at some point in your life. You're going to be put in a situation. I mean, think of Job in the Bible. Like, here his life is completely demolished.
And then just out of nowhere.
Yeah. And God allowed that to happen. The all-merciful, all-knowing said, hey, go, you do everything but kill him. That's our God that we so praise, and hey, he's such a great God. But yet, so, my question is, if I'm searching for God, I'm searching for something, why choose Christianity? That would be my thing,
Especially since you were born in it. That makes it a little more like, well, is this right?
If I was born in the Middle East, I might have a different perspective. I'd be like, why Islam? Or, so I think there is perspective that has to come along with that. It is easy just to kind of force it and go, oh, well, you don't believe the way I believe, but it's a little bit more nuanced than that to me, and I think faith, we can't exclude faith from the argument. We can be very studious and scholarly about all this, but the scholars don't have it all figured out. Scientists don't have it all figured out either. Right. Honestly, when I really started studying, what kind of blew my mind was how fallible science is. Like, because you go to school, you're raised on science, you got the scientific method and they prove this and this. But then when you really get into the dirty details, a lot of that, it's not so stable. Let me put it that way. Like, and I mean, COVID was, the whole vaccine thing, and you weren't sure how to react when that came out. But when it kind of, what got sketchy for me was when it became mainstream and it was like, oh, the vaccine's going to be doing it. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Something's not quite lining up here. And I think part of that was because I had seen where they weren't really like for instance, physics, right? So we know if you've got the formulas, you throw a baseball and it's, I can't remember, maximum velocity and all that.
E equals MC.
Yeah. But all that goes out the window the further out in space you go, right? It doesn't, the math doesn't work.
Yep.
And math is absolute and should work in every instance. So kind of Michaela's question, 1 + 1 = 2 on Earth.
Yep.
But it might be 4 on Pluto.
Exactly.
So how do you reconcile that? And I mean, I can't say that I can even with a God perspective. Why would it be that way? But again, and my point is, there's faith in science too. There's faith in history. We'll read a history book like it's, written in stone, but there might be bias in there. I mean, and I know all that stuff is constantly changing too. But my big thing is why. If I'm stuck in a gray area like Mike is saying, I need to be asking that question: why? Why be a Muslim? Why be atheist? What am I getting out of this? And
because I think the Muslim would also say, I'm not about to go into that gray area and say, could Christianity be true? So I guess how would you define the gray area, and how do you make sure that you're not in a religious group that's brainwashing you, I guess, in a negative sense? Because
Well, and that's tough. I mean,
Yeah, it's very tough.
I don't know. I don't know. There's a natural answer. I mean, I would say,
Read all the books.
God could make a way out, but therein, if you've got 100 people in a cult, let's say, he might only pull one out. Why leave the 99? I mean, and that's one of those things that you could really kind of go down a rabbit hole in, is why did God choose me or choose you and not choose somebody else to pull out of those situations, and I mean, we can go into scripture to kind of explain it, but looking from the outside in, it's hard, I think, to relate to that. And but that's where again, it goes back to what I was saying. We find, I mean, that might be a discussion that just leads to study or whatever, and you find your way out of that gray area. But I don't know that you could do it by yourself. I don't know. I think you could maybe pass through a gray area, like you're already kind of on a course, and you don't deviate necessarily too far from it. So it's like heading east, right? Like if you're in California and you head east, I mean, you could end up in Arkansas, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, but at least you're heading east, So I don't know if it's, something along those lines, but I do agree. I mean, you can't live in that gray area. I mean, you didn't. I mean, the gray area for you was being an atheist. That was your gray area. I'm gonna till I know what direction I want to go in. And I can't really fault that. I mean, I totally get it.
Thank God you got out of that, right?
He not out the fire yet, though. He not out the fire yet. So I can ask you a question, my guy. All right.
Oh man.
So you're not atheist. You don't consider yourself a Christian. Okay. Why though? I'm curious. Like the place you in. Why don't you fully go with your mom direction, give your life to Christ, dive into the goodness? But you're, instead of staying where you at, what's the benefit and why? I'm so curious.
Guess if you're that curious, I'll tell you.
Okay.
Come a little closer so I can.
Yeah, I got you. I don't want you to sit, in suspense,
I appreciate it.
I don't want you to be in that gray area. I don't want you to be thinking about that.
Get him out.
So
Get me out.
It's like I said, I respect Christianity. It's just, like I said, with the perspectives, and then also I was going to say this before, but you guys were saying a lot of good points, so I didn't want to interrupt. I would say, I'm pretty sure you guys talk about this a lot. I think I went to, I forgot the name of your church.
PhD. Well, you get your PhD in the truth.
In the truth. But I'm pretty sure I've heard before when you guys talked about a calling.
Being called.
Yeah, calling. Yeah. With anything, you have to be called into doing it. Like he said, I might not be the commit for forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe one day I do, but there has to be a calling. Maybe one day I know. I mean, I won't. And then I'll be in the fire.
How you know you? How you know you? Continue, but quick question.
Go ahead.
When do you know it's a calling?
Well, I'm pretty sure that that's all personal. Like, for example, my brother, he said that an angel talked to him. And of course, like, what Jason was saying, that would be hard for someone outside of that to believe.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure it's a perspective for everyone. Like, I can see that people, like, maybe one person thought that, Christianity was calling them if they survived a car crash and everyone in their family was all right in that car crash. And they were like, that has to be God. Like, he chose me. I have to, give back to him for saving my, I can see all of that.
And they would go further and say that has to be Jesus. That has to be this particular God.
It has to be this guy. So,
but I mean, not to interrupt, but that could go either way. Yeah, I mean, that could go. that could be interpreted two different ways. That could be interpreted as, I need to go, closer to God, or you know what? No.
Yep.
Why would he do this to me?
Why would he do this to me? So, but that's
right.
But like, yeah, that's why I said before, I keep on mentioning chaos theory. The more and more you look at things in a wider scope, you'll find more and more reasons to and not to. I'm pretty sure, like, you ever heard of Pursuit of Happiness?
Yeah.
When it's
that's his favorite movie.
No,
that's Will Smith right there.
No, don't call me that. I'm not that guy. My name, yeah.
So you remember that 50-50 quote he said, right? He said the person who can and the person who can't is usually,
both right.
Both right.
Yeah.
But that's because, like, what you believe in, I'm pretty sure you guys know what you believe in puts power to it. So if I'm in, so like I said, it's like, looking at both sides. If I'm in that situation, so if we can just use atheists and Christians.
You go do your thing.
If you were in that situation, I'm sure you'd be like, by the glory of God, I made it out. Or Jesus. I made it out. But someone who was atheist would be like, oh my God.
What luck.
I just had to pay my car note yesterday. Now my car is gone.
What random genetic code allowed this to happen?
Random thing could have caused this.
Oh man, thank you DNA and chromosomes.
Exactly. That is but that's why we keep on talking about the gray zones. If you're in the middle, you wouldn't know what to blame, what to choose, what on. But if you're on one side, at least you can, like what you said. I remember that you're amazing. Like that was an amazing point. If you're on one part, fully commit to that part, and if you choose that part, it'll be easier for anything on that outlook or that perspective to be able to come from that. But on the other side, if you're fully committed to anything else, then you won't see that. That's why when we're talking about accepting or how to get someone somewhere else, that's where the stonewall is.
Okay. All right, so
accept the truth, Mike.
Nah.
You don't know what you're talking about.
So we're gonna play this game right quick. You're an atheist. I'm just curious.
Now you call it believe in God. Now you call him an atheist.
No.
I'm an atheist.
Which one is he, Mike? Make up your mind.
He lukewarm. All right, look.
Lukewarm is crazy.
Listen. All jokes.
Okay.
Because I ask people this, and just like people say, make God make sense. Make this make sense. What I'm about to ask you.
Okay. Shoot.
Make it make sense that God is not real if you're an atheist. Because I'm curious.
How much time do you have? No, I'm joking.
I'm joking. I need you. You might have to.
If you had, if you had to sum it up, I guess.
Okay. Cool. It's, man, where do I start? Because like I said, I've just read a bunch of stuff. But like what Jason said, it's a faith, so it's hard to. It goes into theological and cosmetology, right? Or cosmology.
Okay.
And with cosmology in general, even like one of the base facts in it, if you read about it, it tells you it's hard or it's impossible to prove anything that's based on faith wrong. So it's impossible for either of us to tell either of us is wrong, because that's just a fact-based point. Because there's no textbook evidence.
So that gray area.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a gray area and it's chaos theory. We'll be going into, because like I said, I will say, so like for example, I'll give you a point that some people say, right?
Okay, come on.
So some people say, but I've fought against this before, so I'm going to purposely choose one that's easy to discriminate against.
Give me a hard one.
So one that people say, I think Jason mentioned earlier, how can a God that is everywhere, the big O's, be able to let something happen to his people? So, and where this theory came from is that people would say that, so we all know what happened, what's going on in the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
God creates man, man creates things to help its condition, and then man creates philosophy to be able to justify its condition. It's a circle. And this condition is what gives people the thought of, hey, if there was a God, then why doesn't he intervene? So then you would give me an answer, which would be, something from textbook or even personal.
It'd be scripture. He said give us our free will, but go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said textbook. So textbook or personal textbook.
I like this dude.
So it'd be textbook or personal or anything like that.
Yeah.
But the answers and questions will keep coming. That's why I made the joke earlier, how much time you have, because I wrote an entire thing, an essay about like just this entire conversation. And if we were to go about this, like we would be going about it forever. So it's just, we would constantly have answers and questions because it's a faith. But like, that's why I said about that circle earlier. If it was a hard rock, there would be nothing except for just people believing in God. Because there would just be the textbook evidence is there. Everybody's seen them, or there was something there, and everybody would just be like, you don't believe in God? You're done. Like, it's physical evidence right there.
I get what you're saying.
But since, like you said, it's a faith, people, it comes down to that choice. And that's why my response to the gray area.
Yeah.
It's just down to making a choice. And it's basically what you said, really. you'll never fall in the gray area if you make a choice and stick to it. But if you made that choice and you decide to learn more when you're not fully into it, like you said, a babe in Christ, right?
Yeah.
I'm assuming that means that you're not fully developed.
Yeah, you just kind of fairly new.
Okay, yeah, fairly new.
You need to be fed.
If you're fairly new in anything and trying to explore new things, you'll never be fully developed into that one thing.
Facts.
And that's with anything. So that is fully correct. But when it comes back to that question, if there's no way to answer it, it's kind of like what Jason said earlier. There's no way to answer that question. And like, but let me kind of rephrase that. There's ways to answer that question, but that question will have millions of answers, and that answer will stem multiple questions, and then that question will have millions of answers, and they'll go in a circle.
All right, so basically what you're saying is y'all gonna come with a lot of excuses, no evidence, no proof. Versus if, as somebody asked me that, visual proof, biblical proof, historical proof that God is real, Jesus is real. And that was kind of my point of asking, because when you talk to these atheists, yeah, despite words coming out your mouth, it's gibberish. It's just like you said. It's more or less nobody. They not listening, because again, you get a real Christian, I could show you proof. It's just the fact that you're gonna believe it or you're gonna make an excuse. Because it go with what you're saying. Atheists make a lot of excuses. No, God, God ain't real because look, the sky. But what man created the sky? There go my proof. Visual proof, and can be tangible, because you put your hand in some clouds, it causes moisture. Like tangible and visual proof that God is real. Mm-hmm. But again, see how I gave you proof with my words versus an atheist giving their vain words with no proof.
Oh, I wasn't saying that an atheist wouldn't. I'm just saying I'm not.
No, let's do this.
Yeah, because
I haven't seen atheists yet come with it.
But look, let's do this.
How many atheists? Oh, sorry. Wait, go ahead.
Nah, I was gonna say, go ahead and play the devil's advocate, because you know the arguments, and you go ahead and be you, Mike, and let's just see if he can keep up with an actual atheist. If it was, hypothetically, because you're not an atheist, because you believe in God now. I don't know how many or which one.
16.
16. All right. You got your 16, 8 by 8. He about to give you the bars of each God that he believe in.
I'm going to Hindu.
There you go.
And that's funny.
So
we're playing hardball.
Play the atheist, and you play the Christian, because you don't know about the gray area, so you ain't sure. It is not just playing.
No, you good, kid.
But have that dialogue, and let's see where we get.
Okay,
I guess
because yeah.
If I were to go on the atheist side, right?
Uh-huh.
It would go back to what other things are beyond scientific and logical. Things that, because science in general is based off the creation of certain things under the mistakes of certain things. That's why, when he's talking about, the Pfizer vaccines and all that stuff, science is a dirty business. It's not like faith where you can just, one thing is just that. It's a bunch of people making mistakes to find a fact.
Mm.
So when we talk about facts and it's not gibberish, because then you disrespect people that put their lives into something.
Oh, I don't care about that. Go ahead.
No, we get that. But when it goes to that, it is fact to them. But because there's I don't know how to, let me see how to explain this. It goes back to the thing I said earlier.
Uh-huh.
One is working. How can two people, let's just say, you said you're a web designer, right?
Uh-huh.
Pressure washer, web designer, right?
Okay.
You can't compare two facts from two different subjects, because that wouldn't go anywhere. They're two different things. You're trying to tell me facts based off faith. Like you said, proof of philosophy, I would say, because like I said, and then also I would have to encourage reading on this, because because even I know he wants us to talk about it, but I can't go on forever. I can't.
I got you. But you're gonna lose, so go ahead.
I wouldn't say that, but you would have to go and do research, because I've seen multiple debates on this where even the most top-notch of Christians were left at stalemates on certain questions, because of course, like I said, I'm not atheist anymore.
Yeah.
Because I found. Proud of me is crazy, but I found, but it also said my personal reasons, but that's where you draw the line, because you can't go with like I said earlier,
Okay.
mistakes that build facts and faith that build facts. Those two things don't.
It's a big difference.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
You got to write a book, boy.
But to put it in this way, because like I can tell you're really radical, but you're cool with it. You know what I'm saying? But it's like a thing of so like.
Talk to me.
Have you ever played video games?
I make them. Let's go.
You make them? Cool. That's fire.
Sinner, not a player. I'm just joking, guys.
What's your favorite genre of video game?
Horror.
Horror. Okay, what's your favorite horror game?
Resident Evil.
Resident Evil. You don't know nothing about that, boy.
Wow. Okay.
Two
Now,
debates going at the same
what's
time.
your favorite, let's say, sci-fi game?
Right off the top of my head would be but
The BioShock or
yeah, BioShock or Dead Space.
Y'all really don't know about that. But so those Dead Space would be hard too. I think Dead Space is hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So let's say that, right?
Mhm.
People have debates about video games and how they say which one is better than the other, right?
Yeah.
I can't say Resident Evil is better than, let's just say,
this dude.
No, wait. You can't say that Resident Evil is better than BioShock because they're two completely different games and two completely different genres.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? BioShock is about, a guy who went down to Rapture to be able to
do what he wants.
to do what he got to do to be able to, to do stuff, do what he want. Yeah, basically.
Or saying which is better, a comedy or an action movie.
Yeah, because they're two different things that have two different supports to be able to back. Oh, why is action the best and why is horror the best? So it's just like that. So if to get the best perspective on it, because like it's kind of like a babe type thing, like you said with Christ. I've learned this stuff, but it'll be easier to learn it from people who've spent their entire life older than me spending it learning these things.
You know what's crazy about that? That's why I'm asking you. Them same people, the few people I ran across, they say this, they sound like you. Nothing. They don't come with nothing. And no, I'm not trying to offend you. They don't come. Look, all jokes. They don't come with nothing. It boils down to this. Like you said, you got. Because even scientists, there's scientists that I can't think of no names right now, they converted to Christians.
Right.
Because that garbage of chaos that they was like tinkering with until they figured something out, and it boils back down to the word of God. Because even God, what God say, what the scripture, he said, how can the creature teach the creature instead of letting the creator teach the creature? So it go back to the thing of, you got man tinkering around with things that God gave us. You're never going to get out that bubble. You're never gonna get out that bubble, and that's my point of with the atheists. Your stronghold is what's the right word? Tainted man versus my stronghold is God, non-tangible. Like it's not tangible and it's firm and it has a foundation. That it's one of those where even with the game, I like what you said. You can't really come up with. It'd be one of these. Let me make it plain. It'd be one of these. We could debate the genre of the game, but as a Christian, I'll be pulling from the aspect of where I'm coming from, the creator who created the games. So we could debate off the product, or I could pull from the person that took his time, his mindset, and poured into this game to give you something to play and involve yourself and give your time to. It's one of those. If you see, I'm trying to like make it plain, ain't plain enough. You making that face.
I think what you're trying to say is that, well, I what I'm getting is from kind of a perspective, like I said from earlier. I feel like because you know how there's two different types of agnostic, Jehovah's Witness. I feel like there's a perspective there. You guys could argue that because it's still founded off the same thing. Horror and sci-fi isn't founded off the same thing, so you can't. There's no way to argue either, or unless you're talking about a different topic.
They both have two things, and they blend.
Yeah, they both are the same in that they're a game.
Are you saying God, and then this other, however we came into existence, those two are so different that it's hard to like talk about them in a sensible way? Or a rational way.
It depends on the topic of which one we're talking about.
Because what does the analogy relate to is what I'm saying.
Oh, the analogy is where me and him were talking about how you can't really argue something that's founded off of two different things. So they have nothing in common.
Like the type of proof or?
Yeah, the type of proof. Yeah, is what I mean. They don't have the same
type of evidence.
Yeah, they don't have the same type of proof. Because like we have to go back to school in this sense. Picture you're back in high school. I would have to put because I want you to understand what I'm saying here.
I know I get you, bro.
Yeah, because you get it somewhat, but it's not it's not a fact of I'm not saying that I'm offended or anything because I'm not, because we can't get into a full conversation here. Like maybe if you want to.
No, I got you.
But
I got you.
It's not that I'm like other people. It's just like what he said, 80%. I can tell you things, but I'm not gonna hold your hand and tell you every single thing I know that I've learned, because that's something that we can probably have over a beer or something.
I'm straight.
I don't even like beer. It was hypothetical.
Okay,
but
you have to make sure.
But yeah,
he's a hard liquor man.
Yeah. So it's like what he said. With those things, they're so. If faith is based on faith alone, and with your faith it stems facts, and we take you back to school for a second, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been AP politics or heard of it before?
No, make it plain.
Okay, so it's basically a class where you debate social, economical, and governmental problems, right?
Okay.
So in that class, you stem to learn things that help you debate certain topics, right?
Yeah.
So those topics are usually derived of things that come from the same topic. So, like I said before, we can sit here and, like, for example, that light. We can debate which light in this room is better than the other because they're both still lights.
But I'm the only one who got the answers because
yeah, he's the only one who got the answer. So they're both still lights. So we can debate that, and they both probably still have LED, some type of LED fluids, some type of volts or electric, power and velocity, not velocity, but temperatures that come from them and stuff like that we can actually debate on, because you can see that they have some stuff in common.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like it was like what they said in the comments. Atheists in general, what the textbook definition of an atheist is not believing in a God at all. So that's like trying to explain color to a creature that can't perceive color.
I wouldn't say that.
I
wouldn't compare those two because.
Well, you have to let me finish first, so I can get there. So it's like,
right.
So
let them finish.
Yeah, because of course from that point you'll probably be like, oh no, you can't. But here's the thing. So like I said, we were talking about three of them, right?
Uh-huh.
The person it doesn't believe in a God, you're trying to explain something. Like he said, you have to bring them there. You have to give them the tools to get there. So I'm not saying like the full physical part of the analogy. I'm just saying that from that point.
Yeah.
You're trying to, in that point, you're trying to explain something to someone that doesn't believe at all in what you're talking about. At least with someone who's like, I believe in a God or believe in a higher power, you can be like, okay, yeah, you see a couple of the colors there. Let me just insert some. Let me insert yellow, red, blue. You know what I'm saying? But if you don't see anything, and you're trying to put evidence where they don't understand that evidence, or not understanding as in like, oh, I can't, I'm ignorant. I don't understand it. But of course, there are some like that. But in that standpoint, you can't connect two of those things, because that person is going to be like, I have this physical evidence to go against what I said. And then, like, just like how you have personal references to believe what you believe, they're going to, and then who are you to tell someone what they went through isn't enough to justify them not believing or believing in something.
Okay.
So just like you, that's why anyone says in any perspective, if you look this up, anybody would say that you can't use faith in anything to be able to justify something factually, because I can sit here and say, bro, I had a very dramatic moment where I just figured out I'm just not going to believe in that. And you'll be like, I had a very potent, amazing moment where an angel came to me down and was like, this is what you need to do. So you see the connection there? Both of those people have the same type of things.
No, you didn't get to see the angel. That's the only difference from what you just said. And I guess that's why, yeah, I'm going to play that game too.
You don't get it.
I get it. I get it. I'm just messing with you.
I was just going to say.
I get it.
Okay, cool.
But, so you would say the person using the colors, you would say they don't see color, just black and white, basically. Yeah. So it go back to my statement when I said, it's black and white is still colors though. Now, I know why you can try to say no, but they're colors. So just because they don't see red, blue, or none of that, they still see colors. So that means God is real. So despite
I wasn't saying it in that form.
Oh, you wasn't? All right, cool.
And I'm saying as in like their perspective on seeing like seeing evidence from your side. Not saying in the God perspective.
All right.
Because that's a different thing. That's a different topic.
All right.
Yeah.
So with that, okay, I see what my guy doing. Okay, So I say this, like you said, atheists, I can't change their personal whatever experience they had, right? Mm-hmm. But then it go back to how was you created? Who created you? Because if you start going to the realm of who created God, if God was created, he's not God. God can't be created because he is the creator.
That's an atheist problem too that I was gonna.
I know. Yeah. I know where you're going. Yeah, that's why I'm trying to. I gotta stop.
That's what I was saying. That's one of the ones I didn't agree with too because because a God in the sense of in the sense of being God, that would mean because that's the thing that collectively goes back to ignorant Christians. I was an atheist and I'm not ignorant Christian, my bad. Ignorant atheist. I was an atheist and I knew that was a stupid argument to make because being a God means that you're the one above all. Nobody created you. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It's a split difference. Right, sorry, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. I'm happy. I think you might need to come along when I'm preaching to the atheists so they can have somebody that can relate and you can make that make sense. Because again, we all agree that they speak ignorantly. But for the ones that not speaking ignorantly, I just don't understand because even despite when we talk to them, nobody they don't have no proof of making it make sense and showing us that God don't exist. It's just more or less like you said. It's personally for whatever situation, the reason why I don't, or or whatever. But that still don't give you something firm to stand on. Of God,
that's both sides, yeah.
Huh?
That's both sides.
All right, before we get into, because he says both sides, I want to get into some of these chats.
All right, go ahead,
we're gonna pick back up with what you just said. That's on both sides because that's gonna get good. So Brittany Alexis said, y'all like the video. Thank you. Please like the video. That's the best way to get the algorithm, get the video out there, and subscribe if you're feeling it. Carly said, didn't he just say he's not an atheist? And then I said, he's just playing into my scenario. Carly said, oh, he's a cosmetology. Then she put EST. Cosmetologist. I don't know if she's talking about the time, the standard time, whatever it is. Biscuit is some, Japanese letters. Maybe many people I've seen don't genuinely read the Bible, and they frequently ask things like, why does this happen? Why did this happen to me, etc. The Bible provides solutions. Many frequently questions. I don't know. Rewind TV says Mike is definitely manipulating this conversation, and then he had that emoji shaking my head. Rewind TV says listen to understand Mike instead of listening to shut down. And then Biscuit said Jamar, Mike don't know nothing about Resident Evil. He a novice, novice.
You right?
All right. You said
about that.
The lack of firm evidence. Right? Would you word it that way? Is missing on both sides, the Christian and the atheist. Just if you want to word that differently, you
kind of reinforces what you were saying earlier. You can go forever. Round.
That's what I'm saying. This conversation, it just proves that's what I'm saying. You just proved my point. We're still going back and forth about what I just said earlier. We can't prove each other's side. Like I said, there are because, like I said, do you know any evidence? Because in a good debate, you would know both sides. So do you know about any of the physical evidence that you're saying doesn't exist?
What you mean? Wait.
Do you know about any physical evidence that atheists use that they say makes God seem non-existent to actually say doesn't exist?
I mean,
do you know like the atheist arguments?
Yeah. Do you know any of those arguments that actually have that and why they say that and how and where it comes from and where they stem? That's my question to you.
No, you good. Off the top of my head, no, but matter of fact, I think you kind of said it. Some of them have said, yo, if God exists, why would he take my mom? If God exists, why he let kids go to hell? If God exists, and it go on.
Those are the baby ones.
Yeah.
Huh?
Those are the baby ones. We're talking about physical.
Physical ones.
Those where the physical ones is where they actually apply backed logical science and backed logical philosophy.
Because the moral's more emotional.
Yeah, because that's more emotional. Because that's easy to deter. So that's fine because that's easy to deter. But I'm saying, do you know any backed scientific, logical, philosophy that that you can piggyback on to be like, hey, this is why they're talking gibberish. Because it's easy to say that you're talking gibberish when, not no offense, but it's easy to say you're talking British. I mean, not British, but gibberish when you can't actually British that you can't bring up or recall. You know what I'm saying? Because there are good arguments out there. Don't get me wrong. It's just like, Jason just said, we'll be going on forever having this conversation. But there are good ones out there. That's why I said you have to do your own research but from what you just said, you don't know one. So
I said no.
Okay. So you know the
I said off the top of my head, I can't think of one right now, and I just hit the ones that came to my brain. But no, you're right. Okay, I can't think of them right now. So.
Okay, so I'll give you a very simple one then. So
let's do it here.
Just trying to throw it out there.
Come on.
So look,
you said go hard. So.
Yeah.
So I guess you could say, do you believe in the water cycle, right?
The what?
Do you believe in the water cycle?
The water cycle?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just.
Do you believe that?
Clouds,
do you
water.
believe that the clouds produce rain and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so, do you believe in the weather?
You talking about when man calculate if it's gonna rain or not?
Just weather.
Just that.
I mean, yeah, I believe. I believe in weather. No, I gotta make sure.
Okay.
I gotta make sure. I can't just talk.
Okay, so look. There's Christians, not saying you because like I said, we just met.
Yeah,
I don't know if you're like that, but there are Christians that are out there like they hear the thunder and they're like, there's God, or they see a tornado and be like,
I know some.
Yep, and they're like, there's God. rain, go away, right? So let's argue with that, right?
Okay.
So there is scientific evidence on why those things exist. Of course, with the water cycle, there's evaporation, there's condensation, there's sublimation, there's surface runoff, and stuff like that. With tornadoes, it's a combination of cold and hot air rushing in to replace itself. But with stuff like that, like I said, I just gave you scientific evidence to disprove, or not. Well, I wouldn't say disprove, but to go against what other people would believe that that's God. I just gave scientific evidence to
the gaps.
Yeah, to provide. Hey, that's not that. That's why this will go on forever, because there is evidence that this is that. But if we're arguing with two different sticks,
I get you. And
so there is evidence there, but we can't go into all of it.
I agree. This can't go on forever. But even with that, scientists is pulling from what? Nature.
That's what scientists.
Yeah, they pulling from nature. They trying to predict the weather from nature. But nature itself, not trying to quote scripture, nature itself teaches you and show you that there's a God. Boy, why you make that face?
Because no. What I would have to say is that there are things that come into existence without,
like what?
A mosquito. Mosquitoes don't have any purposes at all, but they come in there. There's things that end in purpose at any given time. Like for example, we're going back to. Let's go to this again. Dinosaurs, right? We would have to. It's just if they exist, because that's one of those things that people don't believe.
They do exist in the Book of Job.
I'm saying that some people don't believe in it.
All right, I get you.
So I just don't want to say it, but because I don't like to do that.
You good.
So let's just, for example, they do exist, right? Just for the people who don't, they do exist, right?
Yeah.
If they did exist, that means that things end in usefulness, or we would have to assume that, for example, that if you know about dinosaurs, a lot of them didn't really have much of a purpose. They were just very carnivorous in nature, and they came before us. So we would have to assume that some things about nature in general is very clashful. It's dangerous. It doesn't have any type of structure at all in some things, but some things do. So that's the thing though. So that's why some people. So you have to understand that's why some people don't believe in God, because there's so many things that, for example, you believe that there's structure, but then you believe that there isn't any structure, but both of those things come to God. That's another atheist argument. Not saying that's one that I have.
Yeah.
That's another atheist argument that they have. They say that here's another one too. But this one's easily debatable.
Right.
They say that, for example, since God is everywhere, right?
Yeah.
People would say, or atheists would say, that since God is all knowing and everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I know this can be backed, it's easily explained with scripture.
Yeah.
But they would say that since God is all knowing, but things are allowed to happen, that means he is either not all powerful or not all knowing. Because this is from, like you said, this goes back to the point of trying to argue something as two things have nothing to do with each other. You can't try to put on a human level try to understand something that wouldn't be understandable, because like we both said, God is supposed to be above all. So you can't explain something that isn't supposed to be meant for you to understand. You wouldn't be able to understand.
And this is what you're saying right there is where that's where they're pulled from, because, you know, based on what you said, they're pulled from that because it's something spiritual.
Yeah.
That alone lets you know that there's a God. And then too, you gotta understand common sense and God is two different things. But
you said earlier that it's common sense to believe in God earlier.
I mean,
That's not common sense.
No, it is common
writing
sense.
this stuff down, Mike.
No. I like
I'm
what
taking notes myself.
No, common sense is involved. If you have common sense, I say this is easier to believe.
So define common sense then.
It's common sense.
No.
If you had common sense,
the common sense.
No, I know what it means.
It's
but I'm
common
saying,
sense.
okay, so look, I know what it means, but I'm saying when it comes
I
to
know he
it,
gonna say
common sense is only common to people who have it. So that means that you can't use common sense as a sense of to believe in God, because that would mean that it would have to be. So it goes back into mathematical. Common is in a statistical standpoint of things happening rationally over time, which would be a pattern. So that means it would have to, for them to be common, it would have to be common over, that's just how many people on Earth? Like a couple, like billions, right?
Don't get me
I'm not gonna look it up.
Don't get me
13 billion or
There's
something.
billions of people on Earth. It would have to be common evidence popping up here and there, in a pattern of ways for it to be called common sense, because it would have to be common for people to take sense of it.
Okay.
So
I'm in cut you.
Oh, no, I cut you off.
So this common sense is based off a certain time period, or just period of patterns happening over time?
But also perpetual to the person with the perspective. Because
I mean, just based on that argument there,
7 billion. 8
leans
billion.
towards proof of existence of God. You know what I mean?
yeah, it goes both ways.
Because
a lot
more
of
people
things.
believe in God than don't. So therefore, you've got an established pattern. But I think a lot of those points that you were making, like the mosquito and the purposefulness of nature and things like that, I really think that they're intended to throw a Christian off, meaning because your typical Christian or believer or whatever is uneducated in science.
Mm-hmm.
They can't answer that question. They can't understand. And let's be honest, scientists really don't know the purpose of dinosaurs either. They know from the bones, right? And everything else is surmised and hypothesized.
Yeah.
As far as I know, they really don't even have a solid skeleton of anything just about.
Yeah, just make them.
They make them, yeah. And so, again, it's a lot of stuff when in school, it's like, oh man, dinosaurs are absolutely this. I mean, just like they used to be reptiles, now they're birds. So but
Jurassic Park.
But I think they're kind of designed and shaped and have done that probably maybe over time or maybe they just have always been this way. They throw you off your argument, and because you can't explain it, then you're in trouble, because now, like you said, you're kind of discussing apples and oranges. Yeah. I can explain it through the Bible, right? But you don't believe in the Bible, so therefore that argument is out the window. And it goes back to what I said earlier. We've got to find a common ground on, okay, you don't believe in the Bible, but you do believe in history. You do believe in science. So let's have that discussion. But know before we have this discussion, I'm not here to prove it with absoluteness. I'm here to show you that the things that the Bible talks about are correct and not wrong. You know what I mean? Right. And make it make sense. But to have this, I think it's wrong. I think you'll get yourself in trouble and have this endless, even us tonight have gone through an endless loop on this.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And so there has to be some direction and some containment and go, okay, we're talking about this water bottle tonight, okay? And we're going to stay on that because, I mean, unless you just have somebody that just wants to be that way and try to bury their opponent, right? You know, and you get that on both sides, you know. And I do agree with it on being on both sides. You get the Christian that'll come at you that same way and go, oh, well, it's gibberish, you know. But it's not gibberish to the other person, you know, and it's a serious argument. It's a serious belief. And this, if you're approaching somebody, and if somebody approached you, Mike, and said, "Hey, Jesus is gibberish," you'd feel a certain way about that. You're probably gonna come at him a little stronger than you would.
No, I honestly, I'm to be honest, I won't feel no type of way. I want you to. That's the thing. Make it make sense. Because what I'm saying gonna make sense. So either two things, you're gonna agree or you don't. You're not gonna agree. I'm not gonna feel no type of way. I'm just being honest though. I won't.
Yeah, you say that,
You
but
don't
you
care.
feeling the type of way
He don't-
now.
yeah.
Maybe early on, in my when I first started in this, because like who talking about God? But now, no, I'm not gonna feel no type.
I would say personally, like in my experience, atheists have provided some pretty, I'll say, good questions that Christians need to know the answers to.
Facts.
That I never thought about. If anything, the atheist is the reason why I'm even more of a Christian or stronger in my faith, because there are things I didn't understand. The moral argument was more of an emotional thing to get through, but I was like, okay, yeah, logically, it's worse. The moral argument fails even more without a God, because now everything is permissible. Now you can't tell me what's right or wrong. You can have morals, but without God existing, now there's no objective morality. Now there's no one to say what is right or wrong. So everything that Hitler did, to 6 million Jews, you can't really argue that there's anything wrong with that without a God, without some God, without a she God, without a them God, whatever God it is. It has to be something up there for starters, right? I think the best argument that I've heard from atheists is the God of the gaps argument.
I've heard of that.
It's you kind of got into it a little bit. It's just wherever there's some thing that we don't know, the Christian will just say, oh, well, it was God. Like if there's a UFO, we say, oh, well, that's obviously aliens. We kind of can assume that that's what it is. But I would just argue that, well, if you don't, at some point, that gray area, you got to make a decision, right?
Yeah.
If you don't make a decision, you're going to be living your life on a bunch of presuppositions. And are we even real? Are we conscious? Are we having this discussion right now? Or is this a dream? Like, are we in a matrix? Are we in some test tube and we're just being researched? It's like at some point, you have to say, okay, I'm going to make a choice to do what benefits me. And what benefits me is not to worry about if I'm in a matrix that I can never prove. Mm-hmm. If I can prove it, hey, maybe it'll pop up one day, but it still doesn't benefit me. Right. So as of right now, people may not understand and they may think I'm just like, and I'm just going based on evidence. Personal experience, yeah, I had that. You know what I mean? So that's confirmation. But as far as the proof goes, the evidence, if you just weigh it on the evidence and know, hey, let me get close to God, like I try to think of it like for somebody that doesn't believe in God, I talk about anime, how they try to make these things with their hands, like get tangible with it, get physical with it as much as you can, and do some crazy things to see if you feel something, if you feel a connection that maybe can't be so explained. And you know what? The thing is, people look at God like he's magic. And that's another big problem that Christians can run into when they're talking to atheists, because then the atheist will say, oh, well, you think that's unexplainable, but here's a scientific reason why that exists. Here's nature for you. And they're like, oh, man, that kind of threw me off for a second at first till I realized, like, oh, wait a minute. God is natural. It's not him nature, but I would say God is what brings nature into being. So obviously, everything that we experience can be explained by the thing that God created. It only makes sense. Now, what would be weird is if God was this magical being and everything he did had no explanation. It's like, wait a minute, but didn't you make the stuff that we're in? So why would it not be aligned at all? You should be the only thing that's like really outside of it for sure. But surely I would think if you made this world for us to live in and us to feel these emotions, that you created a logical explanation for that too. But I just feel like if you really want the truth, you'll find it, even if you're in the gray area.
Right.
But it's that wanting the truth thing that makes the difference. Like if you're in the gray area and you're worried about being brainwashed, then I always say you probably already are.
Yeah.
If you're scared of being brainwashed and you're scared of that, that's the only disagreement I have, like about being in the gray area. Me and Mike kind of disagree with that more so than other things. Like, because the gray area, I think, is a very it's I would describe that as being refined as pure gold when you're in that gray area. As long as you're like, God, if you are real, I do want to know. That mindset, if you have that, Jesus, if this is your name, I ask God this. Some may think, oh, you shouldn't do that because you're doubting God. I'm doubting myself.
Right.
Because I'm a man and I'm faulty. I don't have that much confidence in myself, because then I'm making myself God and I may not even know. But what I want to do is look at God and say, hey, Lord, we've been taught that your name is Jesus. My mom, my dad, my grandparents, my pastors, this church I go to, they taught me that your name was Jesus. These Hebrew Israelites walked up and they said your name was Yeshua or Yahweh, and Jehovah's Witnesses told me that we should call you Jehovah. I need to know what your name is. Show me. I'll study it out. Teach me what it is. Should I be serving multiple gods? Should I be serving one God? Why is it a problem to ask God these questions? If you really want the truth, you should be able to ask him anything. He already knows like how sure you are.
Right.
So why are you lying to him, you know? Jamar, answer that question. No, just like
let me
but no, yeah, just in general.
No, you know, me and Keaton don't agree with this stuff together. But I will say this again. I get what Keaton's saying, but even with that, I'm sorry. I don't feel as though, you know, I ain't about to go back and forth with you right now. It's not time. But I don't
go back and forth after this podcast.
We're going back and forth all night.
All night, bro.
I'm gonna say this. I don't feel as though the gray area will refine you, because in the sense of like,
Give me scripture.
Where's the evidence of
You
that?
said feel.
Yeah.
I feel like.
oh,
we ain't preaching that.
You're right. Quoting the scripture from evidence of text and biblical stuff, right? A lot of times you're going to really get, and not so much you, because I know you believe what you believe, but for those people,
I know what I know too.
yeah. But a lot of times, the way you're going to find out who Jesus is, honestly, it's going to take you to get active. It's not so much just with words or how passionate I feel. It's going to take you to get active, because a lot the part where he said taste and see, that play a part in first believing who he is. So it's certain things you got to come into this with, quoting the scripture, and for those people, because I get you, Keaton. With Keaton, he by the grace of God in that gray area, he was able to get closer to God. Not everybody gonna get the opportunity, because that gray area, honestly, that's the devil playground. He had more room, because if God say, when you hear this marvelous gospel, choose this day who you gonna serve, it's one of those, if this is the direction I'm going, I gotta go all the way. Not so much just sitting back like Jason said and take the pastor word, or just soaking the pastor, but then a couple days later you can't even quote the message. That's because you didn't apply action. The action part is witnessing. It's not about knowing all the scriptures. It's about, yo, this is what I learned Sunday. If I get out here the same day or the next day and start applying it and proclaiming God, it's way more effective, and God begin to show himself. I haven't seen too many people in the scriptures, or let alone in my 34 years of living, walk this thing. And those people that's really not doing stuff, they have a lot of flaws. They still in the gray area, versus those people that have just a little bit of word and they active, way more powerful. But that's all I wanted to say pertaining to the gray area. The key aspect, he good, thank God. But nah, I don't recommend.
I just say it's hard to say, because the gray area, it's a gray area to even describe what the gray area is, first of all, because my gray area, I came out believing in God, so the devil lost. I wouldn't say that it's the devil's playground unless you describe it that way, because that could be lukewarm as the gray area. I don't describe my position as lukewarm, because I didn't backslide and know for sure that there was a God and then go back and say, hey, you know what? I'm emotionally upset with God, and I'm going to get myself in this reprobate mind and feed myself a delusion. I was a sincere seeker of God. I grew up in church and I loved God. I still do. But I'm saying back then it was still a great love for God, and it frustrated me, because I was like, oh God, I love you, but I don't even know if you're real. Like, oh my gosh, like that. it frustrated me so much because I was literally just sitting there trying to figure out like, how do I, like Jason, where do I start? So he had his position on where he started, and it was like a lot of searching. It only lasted like probably a week though, like of me not being sure. Like the gray area, it can be defined in so many ways, and maybe people think when I say gray area that I'm in this place where I am. I feel like it's kind of unavoidable though. Like it's a different than being a skeptic where you're doubting everything and you're just trying to find a million reasons why nothing is real. Then you're gonna end up not even believing in your own consciousness.
That's an atheist.
But yeah, that's my question, I guess. An atheist, on what level do they believe in God? Because I would say deep down, they can have a deep understanding and I say a deep like knowledge of God, right? But it can be deep. Just like the Pharaoh's heart was hardened, I believe the Christian can, or the person who's an atheist can have the same thing happen to him, and on some level really believe. I heard this guy. Y'all might know because y'all go to the church. He said he threw a gun out the window. And his wife came home and she said, "Hey, why'd you throw that gun out the window?" He said, "I didn't throw that gun out the window." And she said, "Yes, you did. I saw you do it." It's like, "No, that was not me." He said, in that moment, on some level, he believed that he had to convince himself because that's what lying is all about, right? So you lie to yourself long enough. I feel like we've all experienced this though.
Yeah.
On some level, you're going to believe that lie. Like deep down, you might go to therapy and say, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even know I was telling myself I had to do this." And it's just, we don't understand our minds, and we just assume because of our own experience that, like, I understand there are different types of people. There are different types of people who, like, all right, I can tell you're kind of just a skeptic more so than not sure if God's real. You kind of just doubt everything. You're going to end up not knowing anything at all. Like, you're not going to confirm anything. Like, some people are atheists, they believe in objective morality. I'm like, how do you do that? It's like, that's like magic, you know what I mean?
And I also think nihilism plays into it, like a lot. Nihilism, just like using your personal experiences to defy that a lot of things are good. You know what I mean? Like that plays a lot into it as well when it comes to that. Like that really just diffutes a lot of things that people try to tell them,
Because I think at the root of it all, beliefs are self-serving. We believe what we feel is going to benefit us the most. Talking about love earlier, there's people that absolutely don't believe in love, and maybe for good reason. Maybe they've never experienced it, or their definition of love is not our definition of love, because somebody steady, beating the brakes off of them, talking about they love them, how much they love them. And then somebody across town is, experience, love and affection, and, so there's different, perspectives of it. And, so I think that you have to consider all of that. I think it's easy to get trapped in a one-track mind in a black or white area, and because all you know is black or all you know is white, and you never cross that gray channel, And I'm not saying that you need to go like full on, but I don't know. I just feel like
perplexing, yeah.
Right, like am I? Is this real? Is this the Matrix? Is this, I don't know how that train of thought starts. Like I can't even tell you how mine really started outside
with some
of,
Mary Jane.
I mean, there's, some validity to that too. It's like, are we crossing over planes here? Am I talking to the dead or what? But what's I think that's a whole other conversation, that one. But I don't know. You hate to, say, well, you can never have only like biblical knowledge, because I've seen people exist and thrive really not having a lot of studious skills. They come to church, they read their Bible, and maybe they go back to Greek, Hebrew, maybe they don't, but you couldn't shake their faith, and again they thrive in it, and I'm sure that's in other areas too.
Yeah,
You know,
both sides. Like for example, my sorry to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
like my my friend's dad, he's an atheist, and his life is like amazing. Like he has kids, like it's like it's based on both. Sorry, like that seems.
I already know. I already know. Mike will be like,
I know
I'm gonna be
Leave me
lying.
alone. It's not even my life. All right,
He lied to himself.
it's not even my life.
Look,
but I mean,
look,
I know where Mike's coming from, because it's like, as you say that, I have answers. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
scripturally, like
Yeah.
biblical. But our job, I think, as Christians, is to be able to take that and feed it so that you can digest it. You know, because one of the things that Christians overlook is when they talk about, one planted a seed, another came by and watered it, but God gave the increase. So we think it's our job to fully convert you. Oh, we've got to get you baptized. We've got to get you speaking in tongues. No, it's my job to, first of all, love you first, and show love to you in however that can be achieved. That's
To plant that seed.
Huh?
To plant that seed.
Right. And then that might be all I can do. And then somebody else comes from a different, area perspective, and then they begin to water that seed. You know what I mean? Obviously you can reject everything. And I think that's what we kind of hadn't discussed is the rejection. Whether that's a vehement rejection, of all Christians are just trash, or it's more subtle and, I'm lazy, or I don't want to sit under authority. I don't want to, you know what I mean? I want to
I
live.
think you just covered all of them. That's pretty much right there. Yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah.
So in because we're human and that's what we do, and I don't know. It's like I said, we can go round and round on it all night, and but I enjoy the discussion because again, it just kind of gives you points and a deeper understanding, and really is what I believe, and do I know what I know? Can I rely on it? Can I count on it? Because when I left the first time, that was one of the things I was like, I don't know if I can count on this, because you're wanting me to give my life to this, right? Yeah. Especially if you're apostolic. God help if you miss a service, you late, you hear about it, and they praying for you and prophesying to you,
Yeah,
and
he was backsliding when you missed the service.
So, and it's like, just take a breath, guys, and so you begin to, but my point is, they want you to do these things, and then it's like you hit a moment and you're calling on God because God's supposed to be there to help you and get you through, and He's not there. And scripturally, this. I can read Job all day long. Job said, I looked behind me, I couldn't find him. He was nowhere to be found. But I knew that he was close because he knows the way I take. That's what Job said. But I couldn't experience him. But I knew he was there. And that can only happen with study and a commitment to having that knowledge in you, because there does come a time when you're going to be in that gray area. It's called a wilderness. And you ain't got nothing. And you're gonna have to decide which way you're gonna go. Either you're gonna rely and bank on what you have learned and experienced with God, even though you're getting no payback from it, you still continue in, or you're gonna find something else. And I've seen people do that, and it becomes a loop, where they'll church hop or whatever the ending result. A lot of it's church hopping, but a lot of it is just you fall off into a negative cycle, if you will. Yeah. But I've also seen people thrive, and my answer to that question scripturally is that's their reward, right?
Yep.
Our reward,
that makes sense.
Is there, and their reward is here now, and that's fine. I mean, I tell people, I say, we can go round and round in scripture and talk about heaven and hell. Ain't nobody been to heaven and back,
right?
So ain't no Christian know for a fact that it's real, right? Because we talking about evidence. We don't have it. We just have to have faith and belief. Yeah. And I mean, that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, with evidence.
Substance.
I already know Mike
like,
is boiling over there.
Yeah.
He's like, no, it's a fact. It's a fact.
Everybody had a perspective.
But to his point, it's a fact because of faith. Because faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen.
Right.
So therefore, he's right in that. But outside of a knowledgeable Christian, but you don't understand that. So there is no evidence out without understanding that scripture, and you know what I mean. So now we're in a whole which goes back to your point.
Yep.
It's a rabbit hole. You know, we're going here and down this tunnel and that tunnel. So you have to find, I think, that topic or that ground and go, okay, let's solve this issue first, right? And then work it out from there. You know, because I think, you know, atheists do bring a good point. Like you said, it drew him closer. You know, so there is a purpose to it. You know, but you can say that even if they weren't atheists, anybody that differs religiously. A close friend of mine's a Jehovah's Witness, and we got into it at Cheesecake Factory one night. Boy,
Cheesecake going everywhere.
I'm glad we were finished with the meal because that was it. And
Well, look, guys, this is what I'm gonna do. I want to go into some comments, and then we're gonna give our final thoughts. Okay, so Brittany says Mike sound just like this pastor I know.
Mike the
Nakia said Jason and Ashley Quiet is Mike the only defender of the faith. Well, we found out Jamar is a defender of the faith now because Mike said he's a Christian.
By Mike's facts. By his facts.
By his evidence, his proof. Carly said, what pastor be sound like what? Carly. Okay, and she put a correction on this one too. What pastor he sound like? Biscuit Japanese Letters says, back to the mosquito example, it doesn't have purpose to us, but it might have purpose that we're just not aware of.
Facts.
These just there's just things that beyond our understanding. Rewind TV says, Mike, you will feel some type of way. Nakia said,
it's like 90% of the comments is about him.
it's because 90% of the conversation has been over there.
he been the one talking. Nakia said, faith is faith. These agnostic, atheists, whatever, kill me cherry picking things they can have faith in. Aliana said, Ashley, I'm getting you a new sweater. Nakia, yeah, let them know. Okay. So sick of that sweater. Great. Thank you. Wesley Curry in the second said, the serpent that pierceth in Isaiah and 32 Chinese submarines that shall simultaneously nuclear bomb all 50 U.S. state capital cities after overthrowing U.S. government. They shall smite thee with Omnimark. Okay, I'm trying to see if there's a...
I was confused by that.
I think he's making prophecies. You guys can read those. All right. And Nakia said the bots are here. Alfonso said Wesley tripping. And Dr. Octagon said, I agree. I don't accept anyone's personal testimony when it comes to their lowercase God. I don't either. But when it comes to the uppercase God, I do. So, final thoughts. We'll start with Jason.
Oh, do we feel like we made progress here? Have we converted?
Are you a Christian yet? No,
Are you converted, Mike?
I'm converted.
He's converted to the gray
He's
area.
converted from G-O-D to G-O-D.
Yeah, my big G. My little G to my big G.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think it was a really good discussion. I think, you know, we did get caught in a little loop there, but I mean, it was probably inevitable, you know, with that. But
it's inevitable with these type of conversations.
But I thought we covered a lot of ground with it, and learned a few things. You know, I think you know, having, you know, somebody that's, you know, different, you know, like not in the same. Yeah. We all go to the same church, so not having somebody outside of that, you know, an outside perspective is always good, and I always enjoy it. I mean, it's, you know, there's very few people you can have an intelligent conversation with, you know. So I appreciate, you know, you coming on and you know, expounding on, you know, outside of Mike, kind of dominating everything. But he's just passionate, so that's what it is. But and he does a lot of I know he probably talks to more people than I do, but I, you know, I don't know that I would ever be convinced that there isn't a God, especially now at this point. And I think it comes down to why. What advantage do I have in not believing in God? You know, I remember when I was almost like I'm borderline agnostic, like, you know, because and I can't remember, there was somebody was talking about, well, you know, you can believe in God and if you're wrong, well, you hadn't lost anything, right? But if you're right, It's more along those lines. But I mean, but it's more than that. I mean, you don't stay in this unless it is. You know, if it's not for you, you're not into it. You're gonna move on and you're gonna find something else. Because I think at the end of the day, you kind of cling to what appeals to you and works for you. You know, and we could take it further with that, but from a human standpoint, you know, it's just like people liking football, people liking baseball. You're gonna kind of love one, and I like baseball, but football is really I'm getting the season pass.
Right.
And I think it's the same with some religion to a degree. I mean, again, there's more to that, but I think in general, you know, we stick with what works for us, you know, and you know what you, because you can convince yourself, I think, of anything if you're open to it. But I appreciate the discussions. I mean, I love this kind of stuff. I did a lot of listening tonight more than talking.
Yeah,
you know,
my man over there. You know what I'm
saying? But
yeah, Mike.
You know, he was on it, but you know, but I've enjoyed it. So I mean, it's enlightening, you know, for sure. I mean, you're definitely very well.
Nah, facts.
Rehearsed and
you almost convinced me.
Self-learned, however you got it, because
surprisingly, I actually barely read any of my notes.
Really? Yeah. Well, it's just in you, you know. Well, yeah. I mean, I kind of briefed up on some stuff, but it's like, I mean,
swing it, man.
It's such a broad topic,
yeah.
You know, and it's like, well, where's it gonna go? You know, you can't know everything all at once,
right.
And but it's an accumulation. I will say that, you know, and it shows. Because some stuff, it just comes out, you know, it'll make sense, you know. But and some of what you talked about, I was like, man, I wanna, but I was like, no, have all that.
Let y'all have fun,
you know.
Dang,
but I read what you were talking, you know, with the chaos theory and all that, and the complexity of it, you know, and how like the more complex it gets, the less likely that there is an intelligent being behind it, kind of theory, you know. I mean, I don't agree with it, obviously, but
yeah, something to think.
I get it, yeah, and it's like, well, it kind of makes sense, but again, and this is one thing I think Mike was pretty much on. Don't live in that gray area. Like it's not a good spot, because if you're not prepared for it, it'll suck you under, you know. And it's not even I wouldn't even say it's about becoming atheist or anything else. It's just about the quality of life.
Nah, yeah, facts.
You know,
you'd be like a very sad person thinking about like all that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I appreciate being on tonight. I had a good time.
Yeah. All right, Jamar, final thoughts, man.
My final thoughts are that you guys are very knowledgeable, man. Like, I love the perspectives, especially my man over there. Got to get him this Cantu Nico gel, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and,
put him on game, bro.
Yeah, I got to put you on game. But yeah, you guys are very knowledgeable. I like the points that you guys came with, you know what I'm saying? Like, even, like, because you guys, Jason said that he doesn't know if you made progress. I think we did. You made progress tonight because, like, people look at this and see that there can be a peaceful conversation and distribution of words between people of different cultures. People will see this and be like, hey, you don't have to attack people all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, we just chilled, you know, had like exchange views, and then, you know, you talked about your stuff most of the time. We barely got it. We both our stuff. Our stuff. Okay. When I say our stuff, I mean me and you were the most people who talked. And yeah, and I liked you guys' views, and you guys are very smart, and, you know, I look forward to coming over, and, you know, and it worked. You know, it worked out. Because my mom was like, you know, you're going to like it. And I was like, man, I don't know, because some people just be so radical with their views. They don't want to hear nobody out, and there'll be no point in coming on anyway, because I won't get a word out. Kind of like them too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's funny.
But yeah, but it you know, it went completely opposite. So that kind of goes into what I was saying before. You know, like, you never know. You know, things can go against, you know, whatever. It's pretty much what you believe in. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. And Mike Wazowski.
You know.
Amen. That's what you want to say.
Right?
Amen.
I say this. I appreciate my guy, because he wasn't timid. He wasn't afraid. You know. He definitely a Christian. But besides that, I'm gonna say this. Despite, because I just want to say, because even listening to this stuff, a lot of people become atheists due to situations, if it's something drastic or not. Mm-hmm. God said this. He said, it's better for a man to suffer than to be joyful. It's better to be in a house of mourning than a house of praise. One of the reasons why, and it's one, not the only, because you can't prepare for growth. And the only way you grow is you got to go through stuff. So that's how God built character. And sometimes in this place, when he's building character, you can go to the gray area like Keaton and Jason and them said. And what God is doing is he's building a spiritual character and developing you. And when you're there, you can find yourself questioning or doubting God, and you'll end up atheist because like, why God this and why God that? But even in the comments, like they said, give God a chance, dig in the word, and allow God to dissect you, allow you to dissect the word, and allow to do things to where you get to see God for who he is. And don't allow your storm to indicate who God is or where God is, because God really who he say he is. He about that life. And that's really all I wanted to say, man. Just stay encouraged. I look forward to next Friday already. You know, Brother Jason, I love Brother Jason on here because, you know, I got to say on my A game. Then you have the new dude. He trying to bring it, and, you know, Keaton. So, yeah, man, I enjoy him. That's it.
Yeah, as Brother Tony says, it's my candy stick. Amen. So I love talking about the evidence of God. Does God exist? Any type of argument, any type of discussion like that. As soon as somebody comes to me, man, God don't exist, bro. I'm like, all right, you know, I'm not even mad. I'm just like, I'm excited. Just like this comedian. He said when he brought the guy home, I don't know, his daughter or somebody brought an atheist home, and he says, yeah, I don't believe in God. He's like, you don't believe in God, huh? Honey, go lock the doors. We're gonna be here for a while. so I get so excited about the conversation. I get excited about, you know, different religions, you know, having that conversation, because I truly believe that the best way to serve God is not in a box, but you say, hey, is this thing true? All right, I'm taking that. Is this thing true? I'm taking that. I respect people from different religions because, like, I see Jehovah's Witnesses. They go hard, right? Catholics, you know, they go hard. You always got people that don't go hard in every religion. You always got your crazies in every religion. You got certain Pentecostals that will really bring real serpents out in the service. So yes, you have crazy parts of every religion. So it's not about the society view of the religion. It's about Pentecostal. What does that mean? Why are we Pentecostal? Why are we apostolics? Because we follow the apostles. Everybody cannot use the method that I use. I don't mind visiting other churches that are outside of my religion because I want to see what it's about. I want to get an experience. I'm not afraid of getting brainwashed because I have a love for the truth. But at the same time, some people, when they go into these different areas, they're going to say, well, Ashley does this, and they're going to go there and get lost because they don't have the same mindset as me. So you have to be aware of that, because some people are just ready to leave their church and looking for a reason to do that when they really don't have a good reason. And also, some people may not be a ministry to speak to a bunch of atheists. Your ministry may be to be loving and caring and to give to people, to take care of people who are less fortunate. Like that may be your ministry. Maybe God has confirmed in your heart, because that is the best source of confirmation that he is real. Maybe he has confirmed in your heart these things, and that's all you need. Some people are blessed enough to have had that. I, unlike them, had to be analytical and stressed with the idea of, man, is there a God? I had to deal with that struggle, but it only lasted for a week. So it's not like I was like years as an agnostic in church hiding my beliefs from them. It wasn't like that. It was like a week, punching my mattress because I didn't know. he revealed it to me. And then, it was a great experience. But you got to be able to know, like, all right, is this my battle or is it not my battle? Because you never know. You're going to get into some conversations with some atheists. If you really try to understand what they're saying, it's scary.
Facts.
It can be very scary. I have gone to that line a little bit and been like, I know I'm good, but some people are not going to be able to handle this, because that sounds really good what you just said. But yeah, just have faith in God. Pray pray, experience. If you gotta get a little crazy, just don't hurt nobody, don't hurt yourself. Figure this out with everything in the fiber of your being, every ounce of you. Figure it out, not just based on just logical evidence, because a supernatural God requires something a little different. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. Hope everybody had a good time. Like the video on your way out, and God bless you. We out of here.